Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Celebrate good times, come on. Wahoo! Happy holidays, and it's almost New Year's, everybody.
It is almost New Year's, celebrating good times and 2021 as a year in review. Can you believe it's 2021 and it's almost over? Can you believe it's almost 2022?
There you go.
Do you notice that 2022 is just 2020 and the word 2 after it? So maybe we're just going to be in a time loop here for a second.
2020 also, it kind of feels like that. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is our annual year in review show. We're going to look back at 2021. We're going to discuss the ups, the downs, everything in between. Also, we're going to, at the end of the episode, sort of look forward to 2022, see what's happening in Magic, what's going to happen with our channel, make some predictions, some hopes, some dreams, all that stuff. But first, we have to talk about our awesome sponsors. ChannelFireball.com/command. That is the place to go to order all of your Magic products, singles, everything, anything. We're going to talk about a lot of cards on this episode.
The best cards of the year, the most powerful commanders, lots of spicy stuff.
Yeah, the best reprints this year, the coolest sets, everything that happened, our favorites, yada, yada. ChannelFireball.com/command is really the place to go to order your stuff there. Marketplace is awesome. The prices are very, very low. And you're dealing with professionals because they vet all the vendors on their site, so you're going to get your stuff really, really fast and in good condition.
And previews have started for Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty, and these are some of the best-looking cards I think we've ever seen in Magic. Finally, I'm like, yes, give me more showcase. So channelfireball.com/command is the place to get it.
Yeah, Neon Dynasty looks insane. The artwork's crazy.
Speaking of the artwork, the only place you can get the official art on playmats, sleeves, deck boxes, and more is from UltraPro. In fact, in front of us, we have some very special playmats. We showed them off in the last Game Nights episode.
Yeah, these are hollow foil, chibi Planeswalker playmats.
Yeah, teasing some kind of upcoming secret lair, but this technology is brand new, and the playmats feel just as amazing as the other ones. You don't sort of get that weird feeling sometimes when you know those like 3D pictures that have that velvety scratch thing?
Right.
No, these are perfectly smooth. They have stitch edge bordering and of course bordering. UltraPro is the place to get it. They have been making high-quality Magic the Gathering product for a long time, and if you want any awesome art, they're the place to go, including the secret layers, like arts as well.
That's true. They
have everything.
The Okun and Zindersplit.
The dice
playmat from
sorry, not dice
from the
coin
secret,
flipping.
Yeah, from the secret layer commander.
The
Recon or whatever.
Where's Waldo one? I think so they have limited time sales as well, so UltraPro is a place to get all that stuff.
Yeah, they're really the best stuff to protect all your game pieces. And then the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/commandzone. You get all kinds of perks like watching Game Nights. Did you watch the Blingmas episode yet? It's really great, really funny.
It is.
You get to watch Game Nights, and Extra Turns is coming up actually. At the time this video is coming out, I think if you're a patron, you'll get to watch it tomorrow, which is, again, earlier than the general public. Patreon.com/commandzone is the place to go. Also, we shout out one lucky patron every single episode, and this episode is dedicated to Shirley Nee. Shirley, you rock.
Shirley, indeed.
Don't call me Shirley.
Don't call me. Thank you, Shirley.
All right. Let's get into the main topic here, which is our year in review for 2021. We're going to quickly just recap, because in the office, we were sort of talking about the stuff that happened over the year and the things we should talk about on this episode. And people kept being surprised by some of, like, that was this year? Because so much product has come out this year.
I shouldn't laugh like that. It should be more of like yeah, you're right.
So we're just going to quickly run down sort of the major set releases of the year when they came out. I'm sure they'll do some sort of graphical timeline here so that we can visually represent it. All right. They're like, oh, why'd you say that, Josh?
Why'd you say that? Yeah, they're just going to use that the timeline from the next year's product from the year before.
Oh, right, the announcement from the end of 2020.
All right, so first up we had Kaldheim, sort of the Norse-inspired Viking set in February, and this was the set that had snow-covered lands in it for 2021. It seems like we're kind of getting one set every year that has snow-covered lands. Of course, also Kaldheim did come with 2 commander decks. This is what Wizards has been doing now for every commander or for every standard legal set.
Yeah, the set decks, we've called them. Yeah, February 5th, Kaldheim. I totally forgot that was this year. It felt like last year.
It felt like last year. In fact, I was on the website that was organizing set releases, and they had it sort of in last year's slot as well. So that set was packed with so much stuff, and the lore was so deep, and we only got to be there for one set, so that was a bit of a bummer for me.
The second big set release of the year was Time Spiral Remastered on March 19th. This was a reprint set It featured special old framed versions of classic cards like Eternal Witness and Vandal Blast. They basically took the Time Spiral block and then culled it all down to one set that was kind of meant to be a quote-unquote draft set, but it ended up being like a really good reprint set for Commander too.
Yeah, because they had these sort of crazy, good-looking, old-bordered cards. A lot of people love that style, especially the foils and stuff were really collectible. And it actually did a little bit in driving prices down. We'll talk a little bit about that later. The third set was the first of 2 Commander sets, as well as a standard set. It was Strixhaven and Strixhaven Commander, which came out on April 23rd. So right now we are 3 for 3, February, March, April.
Yeah. And the Strixhaven Commander was technically C21, I think, what would have been the old Commander product in the old days, because there was 5 Commander decks for Strixhaven. Strixhaven also had the cool Mystical Archive stuff, where they reprinted in a special slot a bunch of cool cards. And they also had the sweet Japanese versions of like the Demonic Tutor is beautiful. There's, really cool stuff going on there. Strixhaven, again, feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah, it did. These were all the enemy color pairings, right? Red, white, all those.
Yes. But they renamed, like, Boros was now Lorehold, and, well, not renamed, but created another
New
secondary
names.
alternate name. Yeah, Witherbloom, Silverquill, etc.
Yeah. And then after that, we had one of the biggest sets of the year. This is June 18th, Modern Horizons 2, the second time we've done the Modern Horizons, to add brand new cards, legal cards, into the Modern format. But more importantly, the last time this came around, people were like, this is Commander Horizons. If you guys remember, we did the Game Nights episode with Graham and Kathleen, where I played Hogak and a bunch of other really powerful cards, a bunch that had to get banned from Modern. But Modern Horizons 2, again, had a huge impact on us because of all the reprints and, again, tons of staples for Commander.
Yeah, they make all these new cards for Modern that this is a way for them to make cards that go directly into Modern and bypass Standard. And generally that means cards that would otherwise probably be too powerful for Standard or would warp Standard. But what that means is those cards are often also very good in Commander because power level wise, Commander's gotten to the point where, you have to reach a certain threshold before you're of Commander caliber. So Modern Horizons just tends to give us a lot of reprints that are really good and new cards that are really good for Commander.
Yeah, Modern, I think, is right around the power threshold of where Commander decks sort of get to their max power. Like, there are some decks that are more similar to Legacy in Commander, but I'd say for the most part, people are around that Modern-esque power level.
I think Modern is probably about as powerful now as Legacy was when we started this podcast 7 years ago.
Jeez.
Because so many cards have come out in the intro.
2 Modern Horizon sets.
Oh, just, thousands and thousands of cards. And they're making more cards than ever before. So.
Yeah, good point.
The 5th set of the year was Forgotten Realms. This was on July 23rd. And again, there was a main set and a Commander product, full-on Commander product, tied to this set. So AFR and AFC. This was the first time ever that they did a full integration of an outside IP, intellectual property, into Magic. So this was kind of a big thing. All this stuff was, I like how you wrote down, non-canon in the D&D universe.
Yeah. So anything that happened in this Magic set isn't actually what happened in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
It's like they had a fever dream and then became Magic cards.
Woke up. Also, you'll notice there was no mixing of IP. So Jace did not show up in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I think that was very purposeful and probably something we can expect moving forward, where they're going to bring in IP, but they're not going to mix IP. So any set will sort of stand alone, be in the world that it's in, but you're not going to see Nissa and a Johnny like fighting besides Dristordan and Brunor. Yeah. Again, that might change.
But do you want that?
It makes sense, having dealt with IP on the studio side for a long time. It gets real messy when you start crossing them, so I can see why they wouldn't want to wade into those waters.
Notably, Dungeons and Dragons is also one of the IPs owned by Wizards of the Coast. So even though it is a different one, it is still quote-unquote in-house. So it makes sense to me that this was also their first step into this sort of universes beyond universe.
Of course, they'd done Walking Dead, Godzilla, some other things in the past, but those were like a few cards. This was like full on the whole set.
Yeah, and not just that, but also 4 Commander decks that went with it. If you guys remember the game nights we did with Joe Manganello and Becca, that was, again, so this is now the second Commander sort of deck set within this year.
Yeah, it could have been a full Commander product, and it really was, which we have no way to really define, because in the past it would be like C15 would be the Commander decks from 2015, C17 the Commander decks from 2017. Well, C21 is a little messy because Strixhaven technically is that, but Forgotten Realms also could have easily been that if Strixhaven wasn't there, right? Because 4 decks, and really the number of new cards in the decks was what we'd expect from a Commander product.
Similar. And there have been cases where the C sets are 4 decks as well. I remember one year there was 4 decks.
Oh yeah, no, for many years actually. They went from 5 down to 4 for a while, and then they went back up to 5, only with like with Ikoria, right? Recently.
Yes.
Was Ikoria 5 decks? Oh gosh, I think it was.
Let's gamble and say it was.
Okay. All right.
Card. And the sixth sort of major release of the year was the first of two. It's Innistrad Midnight Hunt on September 24th. So this is back to Innistrad, one of the players' favorite planes of all time. Then there were two sets that accompanied Innistrad Midnight Hunt. This was the first of the two. This was the werewolf, quote unquote, werewolf themed set. And again, two commander decks came along with this one. This was the Wilhelt, the Rock Cleaver era. And then this was the game nights where we played with Sholo and he played Tovolar. And then Voxy played Sigarda.
Once again, two commander decks, the set decks. I had to get on my phone really quick here because the seventh set we had written down is coming out September 25th.
Oh, that's
would have
not
been
true.
one day after. But
that's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's true. So the last sort of major set release this year was the most recent one, Innistrad Crimson Vow. It came out on November 19th. It was almost hearkening back to the old days of set blocks when there was multiple sets in the same world, although you don't draft these together like you used to in the old days. It also came with two commander decks. This is the vampire themed set. And of course, this was the Game Nights episode, the first ever Game Nights episode that neither Jimmy or I were playing at the table. Yeah, we called it the Dame Nights or Ladies Nights. Yeah. It had Josephine McAdam and Ellie of the Vale with Ashlyn and Lady Danger playing in that game, which was a really fun game. Yeah, and Josephine in character a lot of the time, like it was.
Yeah,
super fun.
That was great.
Yeah.
So if you count that up, that is counting the commander releases with it, not the two commander decks, but Forgotten Realms and Strixhaven Commander. That is 9 total product releases in 2021, all of which we had to do. Well, we had to do the other commander decks too, but we did card reviews for every single one of these.
It really did feel like we were kind of in set review mode for a lot of the year, and we've talked about this on the show, and I think we've gotten a better handle on how to handle that now. But it took us a little while because we were on, like, when a set comes out, we do this. And then it was like, oh, crap, they're coming out so fast. Should we do it differently? Should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? Let me ask you a question, Jimmy.
Yeah.
All this stuff that came out from Kaldheim to Crimson Vow, what was your favorite set of the year? And I like what you did there. Let's count the Commander products as kind of their own thing. So there's 9 to choose from.
So I think personally, from a player perspective, Modern Horizons 2, both from a collector perspective, cards perspective, that was by far the best set. But I think my actual favorite set was probably Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Because I just liked seeing so many of my friends that have never played the game before get into it. That was one of my favorite episodes to film with Joe, as well as like all of the cards. I'm personally not a big D&D fan, so seeing even you and other people freak out about Icing Death and all of the props and Dritz and all that stuff was really cool because it got me into another universe that I've now just sort of dived in a little deeper as a result. So that was, I'd say, the most expansive for me as a quote-unquote gamer. But as a Magic player, Modern Horizons 2.
I like what you said there because D&D really, I felt like, gave us an opportunity to kind of reach out and meet a lot of the cool people in the role-playing community, which is big in LA. B. Dave Walters, Eric Ishii, Becca's big in that world. We had a lot of people from the LA by Night, which is not D&D, but in the role-playing world, on the Crimson Vow episode.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. We expanded our sort of like roster of friends that we get to work with.
And a lot of them do play Magic or are around the periphery of Magic, and we might be able to pull them in, so that's been really cool. I think my favorite from just, Commander player perspective set of the year was the Strixhaven Commander decks. I thought they really did a really great job with those. Osgear was really cool. All the commanders in the set were really cool. Not too powerful. Nothing was broken. At the same time, everything felt fun, and a lot of it was different than the normal stuff. Like Osgear is not what Boros is normally doing. So I thought they really did give cool flavor to the colleges from Strixhaven that way, and I thought those decks were really knocked it out of the park. Probably the best or second best precons in my estimation ever after the only other one that's kind of that caliber, I think, is C16 with the 4 colors and original partners.
Legendary. Yeah. Also, not to mention, Strixhaven was the first time we sort of did a skit.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, has paved the path. We'll talk about this later, but that sort of has paved the path for content for what we're doing in the future.
Okay, I don't think we can talk about 2021 without sort of, normally I would throw this paper, but I might need to reference the
numbers
sets.
Are pretty important.
So I won't throw it. Sorry, everybody that was looking forward to that. I don't think we could really talk about 2021, just the set releases. We have to talk about Secret Lair.
Yes. Because there were a lot of them this year.
Yeah, there were a ton this year, and this is really the second full year that they've done Secret Lairs. They did a little bit at the end of 2019, but 2020 was the first sort of year where there were Secret Lairs throughout the year, and this year was the second year, and obviously there were more.
Yep.
So, I don't know. These are mostly reprints, we didn't get a lot of new cards. We did get the Stranger Things Secret Lair, which was a little bit controversial. We'll talk about that later.
And the Arcane Secret Lair. But
those are reprints.
Those are reprints, yeah. But that is is it a reprint or is it a new IP? Is it a new IP but not a reprint? Is it a new card?
It's more like Godzilla, I feel like, where they were they were reskins. Stranger Things is weird because how do you talk about it? We don't have the cards yet, right? If you ordered them, they won't get shipped and to people until next year. So do we talk about them next year? It's hard to say. I don't know. I would like to ask you, Jimmy, what do you think about Secret Lair in general and the direction that it is sort of taking Magic?
So when I first saw Secret Lair, I was like, oh, I get it. This is like an occasional kind of like Commander collections. It's going to come out every now and then again. They're going to base it off something special, a cool theme. I remember when we previewed it, it was like the Kaleidoscope Killers with all the cool dragons and stuff. I was like, oh, nice. I can expect to see this maybe a couple of times a year in the same way that we see conspiracy type sets.
Yeah, I was thinking of it like Commander Collection or what were the boxes, the Spellslinger boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like Commander Anthology and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And
that's not the case.
That is not the case. It's been an on-ramp, and the ramp has been going upwards in terms of frequency, and it's not something I necessarily disagree with because they'll find great reasons to do a lot of them, like they did ones for Extra Life. They've done ones for bunches of charities and stuff, and they'll have product tied to that. And then the proceeds go to charity, and it's like, oh, that's cool. That's great. We're actually supporting a cause, and we're getting like much needed reprints like Teferi's Protection or whatever it is. But this year, as someone that likes to collect stuff, I was at my wit's end because I would be bouncing between getting the email 5 months later of saying, here's your thing finally shipping, and then 2 emails in between being like, here are brand new releases that you won't expect to get anytime soon, but here they are and they're really cool and you probably want to buy them. So I personally got a little exhausted by how many were shipped out, but looking at the actual cards, I think they've done a really good job finding cards that people want to get. Like the Phyrexian Secret Lair might be the most successful Secret Lair of all time for good reason. And I've seen them doing similar things where they know, for instance, the Arcane one, they're like, Ristic Study. Yeah. This card needs to get reprinted. Here's a good way to put a bunch out into the market because we're not the only people collecting this. Some stores would just go out there and just buy 30 of them just because they're just good to have on the shelves or whatever they want to do with them. So it is pushing a lot more product into the market, but it's also making sort of the collectors, I think, a little exhausted wallet-wise.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and I think that's going to be a theme of this year with just a raw amount of stuff that came out. Yeah. Like, at first, I was trying to keep up, and, we have a Magic podcast, a whole company that's basically built around the game of Magic. It's probably no surprise that we try and, get most Magic cards, at least one. So early on, I was, trying to get every Secret Lair, and I fell off the wagon some point at the end of 2020. Yeah, and now I just am like, I can't get them all. There's too many all the time. So now I'm sort of like, if there's a card or something really cool that I really want, I'll get it, but in general, I don't. About the reprints thing, I'm curious because they price these at a point where the reprints are not really that much cheaper than what you could just buy the single for often. So I don't know that the reprints have the effect that we would want from reprints. Because generally when people are saying, hey, we want you to reprint these cards, they're not saying we want access to the cards at the same price that I could get them on, channelfireball.com/command. They're saying that I want access to the cards at a cheaper price. So what I would want you to do is put them in booster packs or something where they're going to come out and people are going to get them for $3 on accident and then sell them, and that'll bring the price down and up the supply. And I don't know that Secret Lair really accomplishes that goal.
Yeah, we're always talking about, is it worth it with the precons and with those decks that have reprints and stuff in them? I think the most recent addition to Secret Lair that changes even what it is sort of the Xander Split Okun deck. Yeah, there's an entire deck now that you can get that is based off Gavin's deck, and that obviously has great value in it because you're buying it at a different price. It's similar to a precon. But you do have a good point. Sometimes the price is, if you divide it up, right, like divide by 5 or how many cards in there, it's about the same. But what we have seen is that for almost every single Secret Lair, after it's sold, the individual prices of all the cards combined is more than the original sell price. And that has been a consistent across the board. So as far as that part of the collecting goes, people can expect to gain value, but it doesn't, you're right, it may not necessarily have as large of an impact on reprints as I may have stated.
Okay, let's look at the totality of last year's set releases, Secret Lairs. What are some things that sort of stand out to you about the year?
There were a lot, but it was astoundingly actually less total sets than 2020, which I thought we were still on that train going up. But we did have a lot of new non-reprint sets, so that was also interesting too.
Yeah, so 2020 had 8 total sets because there was like Jumpstart and some other sort of
Right.
There was mystery boosters,
Commander Legends.
Yep. So there was a lot of reprint sets last year. So this year had more new sets. It had 5 sort of non-reprint sets.
That's what I meant to say. Non-reprint sets.
Non-reprint sets are standard legal, not necessarily standard legal. Modern Horizon 2 counts here too, versus 4 last year. So I believe, and there was, the other thing is there are 15 Commander precons this year and 9 last year. And before last year, the most ever in a year was 5. So we're 3 times the most ever.
Please do not keep that going.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that more later. But so a lot more new cards for Commander came out this year than last year, even though there were sort of quote unquote less new sets.
Yeah, I will say that obviously we were not filled to the brim with cards like Hull Breacher and Opposition Agent this year. The general power level was a lot better, and a lot of cards would just sort of like sift into our collective imagination or our collective memories of like, oh yeah, that was that thing back then, but you're not going to see it every single time at the table like a Dockside Extortionist or whatever.
Yeah.
So even though there were more cards, fortunately, I think they were able to tone the power level down. But that still means Josh and I have to sit here and review oodles and oodles of more cards and not get to the episodes that people want a lot of times, which is more about the gameplay and the politicking and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know that the audience has that content creator perspective, so it might not matter to them. But I think your comment earlier about it being overwhelming, just the sheer number of stuff starts to make it hard to keep track of and hard to get as excited because
I can't even remember half the things we talked about this year.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons for this episode, because I think we're going to keep going like, oh, yeah, that was this year. So anyway, it'd be interesting to hear from people out there if they're feeling that same way.
Yeah.
Another thing this year kind of brought into sharp focus, I think, is Commander's ascendancy to being standalone, not like for years and years, we're like, it's one of the most. First, we started out and it was like a fringe format that not very many people played. Yep. And then it kind of started to get more popular, and we were like, oh, it might be one of the more popular ways to play Magic, up there with standard and modern and
limited.
Yeah. And then in the last few years, we started being like, it might be the most popular way to play paper Magic.
And they've all but confirmed it now that it is.
Yeah, now it just straight up is the most popular way to play Magic. I think all signs point to that. So much content about Commander is out there now. When we first started, most content was about standard and limited, and there was almost no Commander content. So there's been a lot of, they axed the MPL, and competitive Magic is going to sort of, as we know it, end after this season. And so even Pro Magic is kind of like taking a backseat to Commander. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think emerging out of the pandemic too, you can conceivably run an entire Grand Prix / Magic Fest just around Commander.
Yeah, they just started to do that before the pandemic.
And it may be more popular than a standard one at this point, right? We're getting to that point. And I remember Morrow had a poll on his Twitter like 2 years ago, and it said Limited and Commander were tied for the most popular. I can almost assure you that Commander has surged past that by this point.
I think you can tell in the way the cards are designed and the sets come out now. The focus has shifted so much towards Commander, so many more precons, and so many more cards in every set geared towards Commander players.
Yeah.
Clearly designed for us. So that's been really a big change to see, and I think the pendulum finally, we could say now, just like Commander is the most popular paper format.
Yep, it has the Monarch. And
it is
going to draw a card at the end of the
That means
turn.
everybody else, Limited is coming for it.
Yeah.
Standard is coming for it. This is going to be attacking us soon.
If they even have the appetite to, they might just be like, you know what, we're good. We're going to chill over here. You just run away with the game.
Okay, so that brings us to sort of our next talking point, which we've been dancing around or brought up already, which is there too much product is the question. So there was more new cards this year than ever before. And unlike other years, besides maybe 2020, which was quote unquote the year of Commander, but I would say that this year had even more cards for Commander than the self-titled year of Commander did.
Maybe it was better to be called the first year of Commander, and now we are in the second year of Commander. Yeah.
So you've got a year where more new cards come out, and more of them are pointed at our format and designed for our format than ever before. It really did feel like we were in set review mode all year.
Yeah, it was like set review, 1 to 2 to 3 episodes of something that wasn't a set review, maybe a roundtable, and then right back into it.
Yeah. So what do you think about this massive increase in Commander popularity and therefore Wizards of the Coast concentrating on the format? Is this net good? Is it bad? Like, how do you feel about it?
I think it's net good that they're concentrating more on the format, because we've seen this pattern happen before with Wizards where they'll go a little too far right? I think True Name Nemesis was the original going too far. And then they pull it back a little bit. And then they go too far, and then they pull it back a little bit. And oftentimes, because of the 2-year development cycle, it requires a lot of player feedback. And the more players that are in the game, that means there's more iteration, there's more people talking and playing and doing stuff about it. And that sort of group analysis and sort of like an open source intelligence community of all of the Magic players doing this is extremely valuable. And you know that Wizards, as they begin to design more teams around Magic, put more people like Gavin in charge that are more connected to the community and can watch and engage with more content and have people like Post Malone bring more players in, that means that they're going to get better at getting, not necessarily using, qualitative feedback from the players. And I think we're slowly starting to see that because we're making less big mistakes, which I think Hull Breacher and, Opposition Agent to me are
Jeweled
still,
Lotus,
and Jeweled Lotus are still mistakes, but we're seeing less of that, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more apprehensive about them concentrating so hard on Commander because there is a business factor to it where they need to, if you've identified this as a big market and you need to service that market, which that means sell things to those people, you're going to have pressure to create cards that those players want to use. And generally the easiest way to do that, not the only way, is to create powerful stuff. And I think we've seen the format speed up a lot in just the last 2.5, 3 years. And this is probably a direct correlation with just more stuff being designed for Commander. And once this format starts to speed up, it's really hard to slow it down because there's no rotation. So anything you've created just always exists in the format. And so every arcane signet that you make or, something like that.
Jeweled Lotus.
Yeah. Just, and if you haven't watched the last episode of the holiday episode of Game Nights, plug your ears for a second. I'm not going to give away the ending exactly, but I was really surprised because that game was played with 4 decks that had pretty stringent requirements, right? Like we said, Narset Enlightened masterpieces. That's cool because we can put in a lot of masterpieces, but that's not what an optimal, fully tuned Narset deck would want to be built as, right?
True.
You played an Atraxa Secret Super Friends deck, right? An Atraxa Super Friends deck can play all the Planeswalkers that are in those colors. You were like, I can only play the Secret Layer ones, which there aren't that many. I played Dragons Without Borders. I was only allowed to use borderless cards. Borderless cards, there's not actually very many. Most of the borderless cards that exist in Magic are within the last 3 years.
You can even play Shivan Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there were a lot of dragons where you're like, that should go in, but there's no borderless version of it. There's other ramp cards or staple cards, can't play it. There's no borderless version of it. And yet, with those stringent requirements on the deck, narrowing what we could play, that game was still hyper fast and ended on turn 6 or 7. And that was with, really, really strict deck requirements. And I think that just shows because most of the fancy cards in Magic, the promo cards that we were using are new cards because they didn't make a lot of fancy versions of Magic cards up until 2016 or so.
Yeah, those new cards we played, the ones that you played especially, and also was played by Olivia, 100% were huge swings in the game.
Yeah. And I think that shows that the cards in the last 3 or 4 years are very powerful cards and pushing the format faster and faster. And so that's my worry about this amount of product. I think no matter what, an Eternal format has a sort of limited shelf life because as more and more cards get produced, every time you create a 1 mana or 2 mana staple, it's really hard to supplant that, to get it out of the format, because anything else that comes out, well, you still play that.
Yeah.
You still play Arcane Signet. Something else comes out, you might play it instead of something else, but Arcane Signet's going to stay until you create something better than Arcane Signet that would kick it out, right? Which just speeds up the format over time. So naturally, it can't last forever. And concentrating on the format and the way they are, I feel like that's just speeding up that process.
Yeah, there may be a necessity to be more open about telling people, your playgroup does decide the pace and everything, because there are plenty of playgroups out there that are still Battlecruiser Magic.
Yeah.
That number, I think, is decreasing. Maybe who knows, right? Maybe more of those playgroups exist, but a lot of those playgroups also are evolving to get faster and faster. So it's one of those things where it's sort of a race to the bottom of the CMC because it's just how fast can you make your decks. And it's interesting because I think for a lot of players, there is a lot of happiness about that. They like that fast-paced kind of trying to combo off by turn 3 or 4 or 5 now, and it's starting to feel more like CEDH over time. And that might just be a natural delineation that happens between people that don't ever want to be close to CEDH and are okay with 7s and 8s, and then the people that always are trying to push towards the 9s and 10s.
The social contract in Rule 0 can only get you so far, though, because like I said, we built the 4 decks for the holiday episode on purpose with a lot of guidelines and restrictions, and it was still a very fast game. So it's just, I think at a certain point when there's so many cards available that are that powerful, it's hard to artificially without like rules that keep you because our play group purposely doesn't play CDH, right? But it has gotten a lot faster over the last few years. Just naturally, new cards come out, people put those cards in their deck. That's just going to happen. Yeah,
a lot of my decks, I was playing them the other week, and I realized, wow, these just don't cut it anymore in our play group. They might in a random play group over here or wherever else, or they might hold their own in some parts. But for this particular group, I was like, I need to actually go and make serious adjustments to these if I want to keep up. So who knows?
Yeah, and it's not like our play group's building CEDH decks, right? They're just building decks around new commanders and they're building them, to a power level that of the cards that they've got or whatever. Yeah.
It's almost like every single time a new 0 mana counterspell gets printed, that's just one more notch against you needing to build something that slightly beats that.
Yeah. I did want to bring up one counterpoint really quickly before we move on, which is that according to Scryfall, in 2021, there were 185 new commanders created. And in 2020, there was 186.
Ooh.
So there was actually one more new commander made last year than this year, which I'm not sure what it indicates. I think it indicates that Commander Legends had 71 new legendary creatures, and that's like a large chunk, and we didn't have a Commander Legends this year.
Oh, that's a good point.
But still, that could be a counterpoint somebody could throw out of like, hey, they didn't actually make more cards for Commander this year. I think they did because it's very close with no Commander Legends. It's one difference. And I would say cards in the 99, there's going to be a lot more.
Maybe instead of Commander Legends, we got AFR Commanders.
Yeah. All right. Let's move the discussion on to a fun topic, which is what were the best new cards of the year. We just did a podcast episode talking about the team's favorite cards of the year, the cards we love from this year. But now we want to talk about the most powerful cards that we think came out this year. So in past years, it would have been Hullbreacher, Jeweled Lotus, Opposition Agent, that kind of stuff. What did we get this year that we think are the most powerful cards? And we put a bunch of nominees on here.
Yeah, in no particular order, but this first one is the card that I played on game nights the most. It's Douthy Voidwalker. This is a black creature Douthy rogue, and it does a lot. It helps exile cards from opponents' graveyards, and then they get void counters, and then you can sacrifice a Douthy Voidwalker to choose one of those exile cards an opponent has and play it without paying its mana cost. It's a 2-mana 3/2 with Shadow as well, so it has a lot going for it. This is a card that I think they just absolutely stacked with a lot of text.
So pushed.
And it's really pushed, and I mean, the crazy thing is it does a very relevant effect, which is stop opponents' cards from going to the graveyard from anywhere.
Yeah, it's graveyard hate for 2 mana on a creature that also allows you to cheat the mana cost of a spell later if you feel like it. A lot of times people just play Douthy Voidwalker and just let it sit there and hose a deck. Like, just turn off the Carador deck or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to do the other part of it. We used to play cards just to do this effect, Rest in Peace and all that sort of stuff, do similar things. Douthy Voidwalker has other parts on it, and it can occasionally attack with Shadow and just do a bunch of damage.
This is on my every black deck. If the deck has the color black, it will be strictly better if it has Douthy Voidwalker than if it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't have
even like a 5-color deck with black in it, because there are just so many cards with more than one black pip in their mana cost.
Yep. The next one, again, and these are in no particular order, but the next best card of the year is Esper Sentinel, 1 mana for a 1/1. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player plays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power.
Wow. 1 mana, it's an artifact creature, and it's just a Mystic Remora, basically.
It's a white Mystic Remora. It does tend to play out similarly. It doesn't have cumulative upkeep. That's the upside. The downside is that it is a creature, and they only have to pay 1. But it almost always draws you a couple of cards, and also you're in white, so you often can just put a sword on it or something, and all of a sudden they got to pay 3, and then it's just drawing you cards all the time.
Or anything that just makes your artifacts buffer. There's lots of cards that synergize well with Esper Sentinel. It fits into tons of different archetypes that have white in it, and mono white just slams us in there without even blinking an eye.
Yeah. Again, this is a card that if a deck I'm playing has white in it, then I want an Esper Sentinel in that deck. It is definitely a staple now.
Yep. Going down the artifact train, we also have Urza's Saga, and this is a land that is an enchantment land, but also a saga. So it comes in and it gains the ability to add a colorless mana, and then your next turn on your main phase, it gains the ability to tap for, you pay 2 and tap it, and you create a Urza's construct, basically, or a construct that is a 0/0 that gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. And then the third turn, you can do that same ability. You can pay 2 and tap it to make another construct, but you also sacrifice the Urza Saga to search your library for an artifact cost with mana cost 0 or 1, and then you cheat it onto the battlefield and then you shuffle. So this is a land that tutors and also can make you 2 creatures that will grow in size, and it's huge in Modern, and I believe even Legacy. It's a very powerful card. It has so much going on with it, and not to mention some of the best artifacts in the game are at 0 and 1 mana cost.
Yeah, you use it as your land drop. You use it for 2 turns. The third turn, you go get your Soul Ring, your Mana Crypt, or Sensei's Divine Top or Skull Clamp or something. These are all cards that you would want in your opening hand. This basically finds it. It puts it on the battlefield too. That's like one of the more nutty things. Yeah, that card's very, very good. The next one is Sword of Hearth and Home. This is 3 mana for an artifact equipment. 2 to equip gives +2/+2 and protection from green and white. And then whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you exile up to 1 target creature you own. Search your library for a basic land card. Put both of those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then shuffle. So
yeah. Sort of
it
the
blinks
Animist.
Something, and it puts a land into play.
Yeah, so Sort of the Animist does it on attack, but this does it on combat damage, but it also blinks. So if you have any enter the battlefield effects, it can blink the creature that has it attached. It's just a strong card, as always.
All right, the next one is Wandering Archaic. This is 5 mana for a 4/4. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, this is an MDFC, so there's a second side which you never see, but technically you can do it. It's Explore the Vastlands for 3 mana sorcery. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land card and or an instant or sorcery card from among them, puts those revealed cards into their hand and the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player gains 3 life. Wandering Archaic just sits out there and makes all instants and sorceries hard for your opponents to cast if you hold up mana, depending on what it is. They'll still cast, obviously, like board wipes and things. I don't care if you copy. It's very, very powerful. I have found it to be sort of less good than it reads, but you often will play it to sort of lock up the game once you're in a very powerful position. So you can go, boom, play it, and now it's hard for them to counter things if you just hold up mana, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you can just, pay. Well, they have to pay 2 for each additional thing, otherwise you just copy it, you counter their counter, whatever it is.
Yep.
Pretty good. Next up is Ink Shield. It's 3 white and a black for an instant that is a fog. It prevents all combat damage that will be dealt to you this turn, and for each 1 damage prevented this way, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. So if you prevent 5 damage, you make 5 2/1s.
I have died to this card a lot because it's different than Arachnogenesis, which it makes a thing per creature attacking you.
Yeah, nope. This is
yeah, if you're going to get hit for... Think of it very often in Commander games, you just are like... They're like, I swing at you for 9, and you're just like, yeah, I eat the 9. Like, I'm at 40, it's fine. But when you do that, and somebody goes, yeah, I make 9 2/1 flyers.
Whoops.
You're probably going to die to the 9 2/1 flyers on the next turn.
If someone swings at you with like, all right, I have a million of these to swing at you, and I create, I'll Ink Shield it, make a million things, and I'll just...
Kill everybody on the next turn.
Ultra of Dementia.
That card is insane. If anybody is in black and red, black and white, and has 5 mana open, you got to be real careful.
Real careful, yeah. Because they could also have every single removal spell from the history of Magic.
All right, and the last best card of the year that we're going to talk about, these were all nominated by our team as well, so it's not just Jimmy and mine, is the Meat Hook Massacre. Black, and X for a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life.
Aristocrats, so they didn't need more help. They got it. And they got a board wipe at the same time.
Yeah, an X board wipe that just also sticks around and is kind of like a blood artist.
Insane.
Yeah, pretty insane.
And it's each opponent, too. It's not just target opponent.
I will say what I like about this list of best cards, there does not feel like there's a Hull Breacher on it.
Yeah, it's true. There are a lot of black and white cards, though.
There are, which is, the white part is good. Black didn't need a ton of help, but I'm glad white, got some help. Well, actually, I guess white just got 1, and then Ink Shield is like half.
Yeah.
Black got,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the cards we're gonna list as most powerful or best are gonna be colorless because they can just go in more decks.
Yeah. I think Esper Sentinel is the best card of the year, though, without a doubt.
I think so, considering that it's in white.
Yeah.
Douthy's close though. Douthy Voidwalker is just
It is.
Go out and buy. I don't even know. It's probably expensive already.
It's not too bad because Modern Horizons 2 was one of the most open sets of all time. So.
Well, that card's going to be very expensive if they don't reprint it next year.
Agreed. Yeah, it's that card feels like Dockside status in a couple of ways.
That's for Sentinel too, but I know that is already expensive.
Yeah. All right. Now let's look at what we consider the most powerful new commanders. We won't go too deep into this.
Yeah, let's not read each one this time. We'll just talk in general about them.
So we're just looking at raw power level here. First up is Beledros Witherbloom. Josh used this to great effect in the last game nights. This just
untap all your lands?
Yeah, for 10 life, and then you're making a 1/1 that gains you life every upkeep. Nuts. Very good card.
Yeah, if you could get it out there, you're going to take over the game because once per turn, so you can do it on other people's turns.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There was a bunch of good monocolored stuff.
This is kind of cool, yeah.
Lier, Disciple of the Drowned. Orvar, the all form.
Copying permanents.
I am actually playing my Orvar deck on the next episode of Extra Turns, which if you're watching this podcast the day it comes out, that Extra Turns hasn't come out yet. I really like the Orvar deck. It has really interesting lines of play, but it is very powerful. In fact, my Orvar deck, I purposely have tried to build so that it doesn't combo off, which is very hard to do. Every time it combos, I take one of the combo pieces out of the deck. And yet sometimes still it will be like,
keeps
crap.
going, can't stop.
Yeah.
Ragavan, Nibble, Pilfer. This card has affected every single legacy and modern format on the planet.
And very good in Commander. I think it could have gone on our best new cards of the year list as well. It's like a red Birds of Paradise. It really is.
Yeah. And then there's Magda, Brazen Outlaw that I played on game nights. This is just like a super combo-y deck. It can go nuts really quickly.
It might be possible, I think, that, and this is a note maybe for Magic R&D, but I think treasures have been in general like underrated.
Oh yeah, treasures are crazy.
Treasures are
good.
way better than we maybe thought they were a couple of years ago. They might be a little too good as far as like it allows you to sort of bank your mana.
Compare how good it is to food and all the other tokens you can make. Treasures are just includes. Treasures are by far the best.
Yeah, just the ability to like save up a few and then play a 9-drop on turn 5 or something is way more powerful than I think the treasures read as when you just look at cards.
Yeah.
Turgid, God of Fright, let us not forget, mono black. Probably the one card I would make the case for this year that is bad. I hate saying the word bad design. Sorry to everybody at WotC. It's just a mistake. I mean, as far as like, it's you guys are good at your jobs. I don't mean that. It's just like I think that card is unfun. It creates a bad play experience, and I wish it didn't exist. But
Turgid, Tiny Bones. Stop naming commanders with the letter T.
Done. Wait, no more Thrasios or Timna. That's actually not the word.
Done.
That does went away. Yeah.
All right, next up we got Volo, Guide to Monsters. This deck is just one of those ones that you board wipe it and it comes screaming back at you with a whole board state. It's green-blue as well, so obviously it does that very well. Grolnok, the Omnivore, another blue-green commander.
Very combo-y, already a CDH deck, one of those Thassa's Oracle decks,
Yep.
Toxrill, the Corrosive.
Blue-black, shrink everything.
Another T on a black commander, which I wouldn't... Toxrill is obviously an expensive CMC mana value card, so I think it doesn't live in the same world as Turgid, but it does tend to make for games where like, hey, listen, everybody, you're not going to have any creatures this whole game.
Yeah. Wow, my T theory is going off.
Yeah.
And then finally we have Prosper, Tomebound, the best red-black commander maybe ever printed. Watching Becca play that on game nights, it just blew my mind how much value she was creating off of that card.
Yeah, fun card. Rakdos has really gotten to do some fun stuff this year. I will say our list here, Beledros, the monocolored stuff, Volo, Grolnok, Toxrill, Prosper. There's a lot of powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing that feels like incredibly broken or that they'll need to ban or something. I mean, Turgid's the only one I think that you can make a case for as far as it being unfun and...
Haven't played against it yet, thank goodness.
I feel like the community has self-selected away from it the same way that like Derevian stacks kind of, not that you never run into it, but people kind of let you know, hey, I'm playing a stack deck, is that cool? And, then if somebody says, hey, I'm playing a Turgid deck, you go, hold on, I'm going to just switch decks. It's fine, but I have to play something powerful against that.
Yeah, to not lose instantly to it.
Or just not have a horrible time,
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about one of our favorite new additions to this year in review, cards we were most wrong about this year. So obviously we evaluate a lot of the cards. We're not going to get all of them right. Some of them we're going to get a little further than right. So let's talk about the ones that we didn't quite hit the mark on, or they surprised us, or maybe we didn't even evaluate them to be as strong as we thought they were.
Remember, when we're doing our set reviews, we are doing it long before the cards have come out. So nobody really knows, right? It's all predictive. It's all like just reading card and then predicting how good it's going to be. And there are a lot of times when cards come out and you see it in play and it kind of plays differently than, how you read it.
And you're like, wow, so good.
Or wow, so not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
My first one is Doomscar, which is 3 white for sorcery. It says destroy all creatures, but it has foretell for 1 white. So you can play it for its foretell cost for 2 face down, and then you can cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. And we were pretty high on this in the set review, because in general, one of the downsides of board wipes is that you cast the board wipe, but it costs a lot of mana, and then you don't have enough mana left over to repopulate your board, whereas then it goes to the next player's turn, and they got full mana, and so they're sort of repopulating first. So you board wiped, but you then end up as if you were the last player in turn order at the end of that. And we liked the foretell cost because it's 3, made it closer to Toxic Deluge, it felt like. And, we were predicting that wouldn't be better than like Wrath of God or something like that. And what I have found is that, and maybe we didn't realize this at the time, but you can't foretell and then unforetell it on the same turn. You have to do it on a later turn. Yeah. Which ends up being kind of a big deal, because if you top deck it or you go tutor for it, which is often a thing you want to do for board wipes, because often you'll be in a situation where like, hey, the board wipe is the answer to my problems because one player is out of control or I'm far behind or whatever. And the fact that I can't demonic tutor for this and play it makes it quite a bit worse. Or if I top deck it, that makes it, I can, but I have to pay 5, in which case I'd rather have a Wrath of God or something. And then also, there just aren't enough foretell cards that people don't know or can't predict what's going on. There's basically this, Mystical Reflection, and then Cosmic Intervention. And those are the 3 cards that everybody guesses. So they just look at you and they go, well, that's probably the board wipe one, or maybe it's Cosmic Intervention, but either one that it is, I can sort of play around the board wipe part. And I've done this to other people when they foretold this card, where I've been like, it's probably Doomscar. Yeah. I won't commit that much now, and I'll just hit you until you tell me what that thing is. And it becomes like more closer to an Avinriel's Disc. So I just haven't been impressed with this card, and I started taking it out of my decks. Yeah, I've only put it in maybe 1, and that's just a deck that just needed more board wipes. But yeah, if you don't draw it early and you can't foretell it when you have that extra mana, it just sort of becomes a 5 mana board wipe, and there are plenty of those around that you can hold up without needing to foretell and tell everyone that you're foretelling it. Next up, we have Endurance, a card that is on the other side. It's not that we thought it was too good, it's that we didn't think it was good enough. Yeah, I wasn't actually part of the Modern Horizons 2 set review. So what did you and DJ, I think it was you and DJ, right? Yeah, I think, I think both of us said this is good for hosing. Like, we felt it was niche, or at least I felt it was more niche. When someone's trying to do something with their graveyard, bam, you can Endurance them. It's going to come in the battlefield at flash speed, and you're going to make them all put all their cards on the battlefield in a random order. This card actually, I think, there are so many more graveyard synergies that exist these days that I think this is just straight up a very good answer, because you can cast it for, again, 0 mana. All of this entire evoke cycle from Modern Horizons 2, they're all decent in their own ways, but evoking an Endurance can just end someone's game, especially if their entire strategy revolves around the graveyard. But there's so many decks that just will constantly be putting tons of value in their graveyard, and I think this just hoses a lot of people. Yeah, if I had been part of the Modern Horizons 2 review, I don't think I would have rated this card very highly. Yeah, it feels just like, it's an answer for a thing, and that might happen. Yeah, it's fine. It seems fine. Turns out that thing can happen pretty much in every single game of Commander. Yeah, I've started putting into most decks. The fact that it's free is huge. They will not see it coming. They'll go for their Living Death or whatever it is. They'll go for their... even just a regrowth type effect. Yep. Reanimate. And here's the thing. Witness or... This is 1 green at flash. You can still play this without needing to evoke it out for free. Yeah, you just can't if it's going to be catastrophic. If they're like, reanimate 1 creature, and you're like, it's fine. Yeah. I don't want to lose the card advantage, then that's fine. But if they do something nuts where it's like Diluvian Primordial or Sepulchral Primordial or something, you go, okay, no, screw that. Yeah, gotta stop. Let's get rid of the one big graveyard that's got the best thing in it or whatever. So yeah, I've found Endurance to be very good. I've started putting it in a lot of decks. Let's talk about one of yours here, Jimmy. Yeah, sure. You put Oversimplify on your list. Yeah, so I was originally very upset about this card existing. It's 3 green and a blue, and it exiles all creatures, and every player creates a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of creatures that they control that were exiled this way. So if I had 5 creatures, they all go away, and I make a 5/5. If Josh has 2, he makes a 2/2. I was like, green blue doesn't need this effect. But I think I was just overrating the fact that board wipes exist everywhere. And an exile board wipe is bad for a lot of decks, but it's also not an insane thing.
it's powerful. Don't get me wrong, right? Like exiling creatures is one of the best ways to get rid of constant threats. And we just talked about how endurance is good because you can stop things from being in graveyards, which exiling does. So to me, I think I just overrated how powerful it would be. I haven't really seen it played that much. Green and blue, I think it's almost better for them to Cyclonic Rift than to cast a sorcery
certainly
speed,
is.
5 mana spell that exiles everything. So to me, I think I just overrated how powerful this was because I was afraid of green blue getting too many toys. But turns out they have enough already.
I think also, and this might be something we need to recalibrate for our evaluation. Let me know what you think here. Board wipes have become less important as the format has gotten faster.
Yeah, well, creature board wipes especially, because sometimes it's like a great henge on turn 3 that's going to kill you.
And I just think the format is fast enough now that it is difficult to get to the point where a board wipe is really a good play for you, because a lot of times you're going to board wipe, they're going to repopulate because the CMCs of everything are lower.
Yeah.
And you're just in danger earlier. You can't be holding like 6 CMC board wipes in your hand that maybe don't, like you said, don't even hit the important thing. So it just feels like Doomscar and Oversimplify are both board wipes that we sort of thought highly of. And I just think the bar for a board wipe to clear is just higher than it was before. It needs to be better than it was.
Absolutely.
All right. My last card that I misevaluated, I'm going to say, is Cunning Rhetoric. This is 2 and a black for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent attacks you and/or one or more planeswalkers you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. I believe, and I remember us being,
not so hot.
No, liking this card and thinking that it was decent and it was going to be similar to a propaganda or something.
Oh, right.
And I've seen it play a few times now, and I have not liked it any of the times I've seen it play. It will often make it so that you don't get attacked once or twice, but the problem is that propaganda magically stops them from attacking. Like, they cannot do it unless they have the mana.
Yeah.
This one says, if you can do it, and a lot of times they will choose to on the turn that they kill you.
Mm-hmm. Or do so much damage that one card's not going to make a difference.
Yes, exactly. They're like, whatever, you can look at the top card of my library and maybe cast it, and I'll do 20 to you, or just kill you outright, and you never get the trigger. Whereas propaganda would have stopped that because they needed the mana to do it.
I see.
So I've just not been super impressed with it. You just basically never get any cards off of it unless they want you to, and if they want you to, that means they have a plan for it, and it's not great for you either.
Yep. All right, the last card that I will talk about is Valky God of Lies, which is Tybalt Cosmic Imposter on the other side. It's a 1 in the black legendary creature, but it's actually a black-red planeswalker on the other side, so you can play as a black-red commander. I was like, this is so cool. I can't wait to play this because you can play it early, you can play it late, but here's the thing. You don't want to play it early if you want to play the other side, and you can't play the other side because it's 7 mana, and black and red has had so many better things happen this year that why the heck would you want to play Valky as your commander when you could just play Prosper? Or
you have to be like doing some weird cheaty thing with the mana cost on the other side.
And at that point, you're building in things to make this work that just make your deck actually worse. So I was originally really excited. I bought a couple copies of it. I was like, can't wait to try this out. And I've just been sort of like, nah, why? No thanks.
The take one card and it has to be a creature card is really hit and miss.
You're really only playing Valky because of the backside.
Yeah.
Because it's cool, but it's also 7 mana. And 7 mana commander is, unless it's like Beladros, it's hard to justify a planeswalker that can just get swung at and killed the next turn.
All right, those were the cards we were most wrong about. That's us admitting we are not always right.
It won't happen often. I'm just kidding.
It happens plenty.
Yeah, probably has happened on this episode a few times already.
All right, let's move to the next sort of big topic every single year, which is reprints. How many of the staples and the cards that already exist in the format, how many new copies of that stuff did Wizards of the Coast put into the ecosystem in the year? And how does this year stack up as far as reprints? Note, we aren't going to count the secret layer stuff as reprints here. Like we said earlier, they generally tend to price them in a manner which I don't think is conducive to bringing down prices. So we're just going to talk about reprints that came within the 9 sets that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and we have a lot of these to cover, so let's get right into it. First off, we'll talk about Mystical Archive. Again, this came out with Strixhaven. So were these successful in bringing down the prices of cards? And it is actually kind of like one of these, like a little bit, but not super insane amounts, because it wasn't in the main set again, so it didn't have the mass amount of printing that something like a Modern Horizons 2 did on fetch lands, because those were just opened everywhere.
Yeah, these were in a special slot in the pack, and they had their own rarity and stuff. So generally, like a really highly sought after card that gets reprinted at like Mythic Rare, that's not going to affect the price much because just not enough of them come into the market.
And these are also in special frames and all that stuff, so that actually naturally increases the price, so it may not actually do a huge job reducing the price. However, there were some prices that did go down as a result of these cards coming out, and maybe it's not directly tied to it, but the effect overall, it's still cheaper than it was before.
I want to give a shout out to Truck, who helped us with a lot of this data stuff for the reprints.
Yeah.
Okay. So the top 4 Mystical Archive cards that were reprinted were Demonic Tutor, Teferi's Protection, Natural Order, and Time Warp. And Truck did an analysis which checked out all the prices before the reprint was announced, and then checked the current price, the price as of today when we're recording, which is December 21st. So Demonic Tutor was $46 before the Mystical Archive reprint was announced, and today it is $36.
Okay, that's $10. That's a 20% decrease in price.
Yep, 22% decrease. Yeah.
Teferi's Protection, now keep in mind this was also reprinted in the Secret Lair this year, was at $40, and then it dropped down to $28.50 right now, and that's almost a 30% decrease in price.
Pretty good.
Natural Order is $30.
Was
$30, and now it's $15, so that's almost 50% decrease, which is really good. And then Time Warp went from $14 to $13, so almost negligible.
An 8% decrease.
Yeah.
Interesting to see that, and I'm not sure what conclusions to draw, but the fact that like different cards in the same set that were reprinted didn't drop by a similar amount is kind of weird. It must be that the demand for Time Warp was much higher.
Yeah.
Even though it was a lower cost card.
And there aren't, I mean, honestly, Demonic Tutor is great, and there are lots of versions of cards that do Demonic Tutor type things, which is why it's overall higher. But I think the decrease in price makes sense. Time Warp, like at $14, I think is actually a fair price.
Yeah.
For a 5 mana take an extra turn spell, because that is, again, the best rate you can get, it really, without going super breaking the bank.
Yep. So that was Mystical Archives. Let's talk about, I wanted to take a quick pause here and talk about each year, and we're going to do that this year too. We kind of say, well, what are the cards we want reprinted the most in the next year? So last year, at the end of 2020, we said, here's the list: Vidalcanori, Wayfarer's Bauble, Cabal Coffers, Urborg, Parallel Lives, Edgar Markov, Mystic Remora, Mirari's Wake, the Fetch Lands, Anointed Procession, all the Allied Color Talismans, Felwar Stone, Sensei's Divining Top, Smothering Tithe, Dockside Extortionist, Veil of Summer, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, and Deadly Rollick. Now, those last 3 are really interesting because they came out during the year, but we were like, listen, you got to reprint these right away.
Immediately,
they're already really expensive.
Sorry, editors, by the way.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards.
That's not the last time that will happen.
So those are the cards we asked for, and now we're going to find out which of those cards that at the end of last year we deemed to be the most important to be reprinted actually got reprinted within this calendar year. And remember, it's not like they could listen to us say that and then put those in the sets.
Yeah,
the
it's
sets
way too early.
Yeah, they're 2 years in advance. So we're not saying like you didn't listen to us or anything of the sort, just to see if they're on the same wavelength as us or anything. So we're going to check out if they did reprint any of that stuff, how much. But before we get to that, we got to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors. Hey everyone, we are super excited that this episode is sponsored by Boom Studios, the makers of the Magic the Gathering comic book series.
The comics are a great way to see all of the MTG characters like Jace, Ralzeric, and Kaya come to life and kick some butt.
You know, I'm not even a big lore person, but it is super cool to see the Magic world in action.
The Volume 1 collection, which includes the first 5 issues of the comic, is out now digitally and in hardcover.
And the story is sweet. An attack on 3 of Ravnica's guild leaders sends a team of planeswalkers on a journey across not just Ravnica, but the multiverse itself.
The art is gorgeous, which makes it even cooler to see all the different characters showing off what they're capable of. Like Ral fries a building full of werewolves.
And Vraska, she turns a dinosaur to stone.
Plus, they've got a one-shot comic called Master of Metal, which follows the schemes of Tezzeret after he's been unshackled from Nicol Bolas.
You can find Master of Metal and the full Magic Volume 1 collection at your local comic shop or bookstore. And the whole series is available online at comixology.com.
Thanks again to Boom Studios for sponsoring this episode, and be sure to check out those comics at your local bookstore or comixology.com.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out betterhelp.com/commandzone.
You know, I've been thinking we don't talk enough about the importance of upkeep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's no main phase, but if you've got a Phyrexian Arena or a Dark Confidant, maybe...
No, I mean personal, emotional upkeep. Life can be so hectic that it's hard to set aside time for mental health. That's why BetterHelp is so important. BetterHelp lets you connect with a professional therapist on your own schedule in whatever way is most comfortable for you.
Whether you're struggling with depression, facing life's everyday stressors, or just need someone to talk to, therapy is is a great option.
Yeah, I've been talking to a therapist for over 2 years now, and it's great just to have someone to talk to about the things that you can't talk to other people about.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours.
Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Command Zone listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/commandzone. That's BETTERHELP.com/commandzone. Okay, so we've covered a little bit of the reprints. Let's talk about the biggest reprints that Wizards actually gave us this year. So we had a little bit of methodology going into this. The way that we classified the top reprints of the year. So these are cards that were worth over $10 before the reprint announcement. And then we looked at the cheapest near mint copy available 2 months before the reprint announcement. And then that same card now, today, which was done yesterday, December 20th. So again, if a card is over $10, it counts as a card that is going to get top reprint. And then we looked at the cheapest near mint copy before the reprint, and then the cheapest version of it now. So before and after, and then what the price originally was. So similar to what we just did for Mystical Archive. And again, we are omitting cards like Secret Lairs, the retro frame releases in Modern Horizons 2, as well as
all those promos tend to be
Spiral.
sort of looped in here as part of why the cost goes down. But
Yeah.
really, what's the cheapest you could get a version that's playable of this card in near mint? All right, Modern Horizons 2, the enemy fetch lands were reprinted in this set, and Truck found that they went down an average of 44.86, so 45%.
Wow.
So almost a 50% decrease in price.
Fantastic,
for the
by the
enemy
way.
fetch lands. Yep. So Arid Mesa went from 38 to 23, Misty Rainforest $80 to 36.40.
$80.
Yeah. Marsh Flats 42 to $23, Verdant Catacombs 54 to 32, Scalding Tarn $80 to 44.50. This is massive drops, and we've seen this when fetchlands have been reprinted before. And let me just say, like, pick them up now while they're about as cheap as they're going to be, because
They've actually been going up a little bit.
Yeah,
they
they're
were
gonna
at
go
their
up
cheapest
again.
a little bit, yeah.
We've seen fetchlands like go up, and so they're going to reprint them every few years. But right after a reprint is the time they are going to be the least expensive, and they're never going to just go down from here.
Yeah, their floor, by the way, also slowly increases over time, I believe, as Magic gets more and more popular. So if you're playing now, it's now a great time, great Christmas present, channelfireball.com/command.
But cutting prices by 50% almost on fetchlands.
Yes.
I mean, kudos to Wizards.
It helped a lot that Modern Horizons 2 with collector boosters meant that a ton of different versions of these cards were going to be opened. There are different types of frames, so that increases different levels of rarity, and that drops the overall price as well for other cards.
I think this next one is actually the biggest change in price, the biggest price decrease of the year.
It's nuts. So
And it was on our list of things we wanted reprinted.
Yeah, thank goodness. It's Cabal Coffers. This thing went from $103 to $25.90. That's almost 75% decrease, so 74.85%. So Cabal Coffers was a very old card that hadn't seen reprints in a long, long time. Modern Horizons 2 was the right place to do it in. And you kind of see with the decreases like this that, yeah, it's a great card, but it was also artificially, I think, inflated because of its age and the lack of copies in the market. Not necessarily, right? It's still a very powerful card,
yeah.
But maybe a little bit of that price was added on because it just was a harder card to find overall.
Yeah, I think you could say that the $100 price tag was more because of a lack of supply than it was because of a great demand. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another card that dropped a lot, Imperial Recruiter, went from $30.40 to $7.90, so 74% decrease.
Still 75%, but Cabal Coffers was literally $75 cheaper.
Yeah.
That's two old Imperial Recruiters and some change. 2.5. All right, now going to Time Spiral Remastered, lots of reprints here, and again, some big drops. Pact of Negation, one of the most powerful spells you can play in Magic, $35 down to $12. That's a 65.81% decrease.
Gemstone Caverns went from $60.60 to $31.60, so a 48% decrease just about.
Not as much of a commander card, but still very played. Damnation, a classic mono black board wipe, went from $41 down to $30, which is a 27% decrease.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that one. I don't play Damnation that much. I think black has better stuff, so I would have thought that an increase in supply would have dropped that price by a lot more.
Yeah, especially because Dam got printed too, but I guess mono black and modern, I think, or other formats that want mono black board wipes. Again, it's unique in that sense. So
The next one is Chalice of the Void, another more modern card than Commander. $42 down to $71.70. So
No, down up to 71.
Oh, shoot.
This is
That went
actually
up?
one that went up. Yeah, this was a 70% increase.
What the heck?
Yeah, I believe Chalice of the Void, it's just a very good card. I think more decks in Legacy formats start playing it outside the Commander, because this is not one you see necessarily in Commander very often either.
You don't see a lot of, they reprinted that, and then it went up. It almost doubled the price.
Yeah. So that means that some older formats are just getting more popular.
It wasn't because of Commander.
Yeah.
Because we don't play
historic
that card
type
much.
stuff. Yeah.
All right, let's look at the Commander product from this year. And this is going to be all 15 of the Commander precons. We're going to loop into one thing.
Can't believe you just said that sentence.
15. We're going to start off with 2 cards that were on our list that we wanted reprinted this year. Felwar Stone, which wasn't a super expensive card. It was about $5.80, $6 or so before, and then now it's at about $3.70, so a 36% decrease. But Felwar Stone is very much a staple in the format, so it's nice to just, even a couple bucks there is nice for everybody out there, because there's literally thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of decks that have it.
Yeah, and it works in so many decks. Wayfarer's Bauble, a great card, $3.40 down to $2.80, so not a huge decrease. I think it just still shows that this card is very played in a lot of decks. That's only about 17% there.
That's like what Sol Ring does, right? Gets reprinted and then stays at about the same price.
Yep, Sol Ring's always going to be about that same price, maybe slightly increasing year after year too.
Just shows how good Wayfarer's Bauble is. Hellkite Tyrant was $25 before the reprint in the Commander product, and now it's $7.60, so it went down 70%.
Yeah, I think it was because it was only printed in a couple of sets, or maybe even one. Yeah, so it was only printed in Commander 2016, the original Gate Crash, and then Commander 2021. So again, this is just not that many around, and it dropped massively. I think the price was artificially inflated there a little bit too.
Yeah, because not many decks actually need a Hellkite Tyrant.
Yeah.
1,000-Year Elixir, one of my favorite cards, untaps creatures, was $25. And
wow,
fell all the way to $5.70.
Again, feels very similar to what happened, which is it just was big for a wrong reason, or it just wasn't around enough. But man, that dropped a bunch.
Yep.
And then Kindred Summons was only printed in one of the Commander products in 2017. And got back in Forgotten Realms from $32 all the way down to $4. So that's an 87% increase. This happens a lot. Decrease, sorry. This happens a lot for Commander-specific cards like Dockside Extortionist. It's just you only see it one time in the Commander product, and those are not opened, I think, nearly as much as like a Modern Horizons or a Standard set, because you just get one per thing. You might open the booster box and get 2 of them or 3 of them, depending. So,
although Dockside specifically, I think goes in so many decks that they could reprint it in a Standard set, and it would still be very expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they were at Common or something. Speaking of Standard set, the Standard set reprints this year were pretty abysmal. We looked through all of them. It used to be like you'd get an Idealic Tutor or something here and there.
Yeah. Or Urborg.
This year, there was only one reprint from a Standard set that was worth even talking about. That was $10 or more. It was Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, which was in Crimson Vow, and that went from $10 to $8.
Woohoo!
A 20% decrease.
And it's not even played very much in Commander unless you're stacking it up.
This was a bad year for reprints in Standard legal sets, and I don't know why. You have all those slots in. You don't need all new cards.
Yeah.
Like, they used to throw us some reprints in there, and it's, why aren't we getting those? We should get those.
We had Grim Tutor in a core set. So, yeah. And we had Ugins and all that sort of stuff, too. So there are ways for them to do it. I don't know. We'll see what happens next year, I guess, and see if this is a trend that where they try to fit it more into the Commander product and less in the Standard ones. Who knows? In
a lot of cases, I would like to see them do like the Smothering Tithes and the Modern Commander staples.
Yeah.
As reprints in Standard legal sets, because they won't break them. They've already come from there for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that is just a way to get those back into the market, because Smothering Tithe really shouldn't be the price that it is, right? That's not. No. Yeah. Speaking of which, let's talk about our list. Oh, I want to go back to the list, sorry, of cards we asked for.
Oh, that's right. Right here.
Did I throw it?
So we asked for a bunch of cards, and the cards that actually got reprinted on that list are 5. One of them is Fetch Land, so that counts as more than 5, but we count that sort of as a category.
Yeah, we got Wayfarer's Bauble, Cabal Coffers, Mirari's Wake, Felwar Stone, and Fetch Lands. Remember that huge thing you looked at that had all those cards on it that the editors had to work so hard earlier?
Exeter.
Only 5 of them got reprinted. So that feels like a whiff to me.
Yeah, maybe the editors shouldn't have done all that work. But now they won't know because it's later in the episode.
The audience appreciates it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, give the editors some love in the comments.
The editors are now coming to our houses with eggs.
Okay, let's talk about the highly needed reprints in 2022. So we're going to make a similar list now for the cards we think are the most needed reprints in the format for this upcoming year. And some of the cards are the same, but some are different.
Okay. Dockside Extortionist.
We have to.
Why? Why? You're throwing white, all types of bones. Red obviously is in a better place than it ever has before. This is such an easy card to reprint, I think. It's just do it.
It's freaking $75 because it's only been in one commander product.
That is like 2 precons. You can buy 2 precons for the price of one.
And this goes in every red deck. And we can hem and haw, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, it's, borderline too good, broken. Listen, if they're going to ban it, that's fine. I don't think they are, but if they are, that's a different thing. But if it's legal in the format, then people are going to play it. And we need this card to not cost $75. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not an old card. It's not on the reserve list. Like, and people have been asking for this reprint for years now. Where is it? We deserve it. This needs to come back.
Yep. This is a newer card, the next one, but Josh and I are both very high on this card, and it does work every single time it comes down the field. It's Jeska's Will. This should definitely get reprinted. It was only in the Commander Legends product. I could see this as being like once a year type of thing coming out. And it's okay because the original version had foil, borderless versions. People that collect it can have that. Just give me a regular one, please.
Because it's $25 now, and we're a year out from Commander Legends, which a lot of it was opened. So this card is going to be $40 or $50 before we can blink, and then it's going to be like Dockside Extortionist.
All over.
Because once a card gets super expensive, it is difficult for them to reprint it because it warps whatever. Like if you put it in one Commander deck,
all of a sudden
everybody buys only that one. Smothering Tithe, we just talked about it, $40 now. This was a standard legal card. It did not break standard in any way. It could easily appear in a standard set. Just dedicate one rare slot to Smothering Tithe in a standard legal set. Everyone will be happy, and the card will be, maybe $15, $17 for a little while.
Yeah. Don't dedicate a slot, though, to Rhystic Study, because that might break standard, I think. But that card's at $35. This is, again, it's just one of those must-haves, and it's obviously annoying to play against. Same with Smothering Tithe, but it's at $35 now. They just kind of reprinted it with the Arcane Secret Lair, but that's not going to be enough.
Well,
not going to be enough.
They cheated. They did a reprint, in quotes, for Jumpstart.
Right.
Also, that's not in high enough numbers.
Yep.
So it has to go in like a Modern Horizon style set. It needs to go in like a commander deck or maybe a couple to really bring the price down.
Yeah, or even just putting more versions of it in the secret, not secret layer, the mystery booster type things.
There you go.
Because they can just increase the slots that these go into, and maybe say like, hey, you know what? Let's put Smothering Tithe, all these things in there, so when people go to conventions and open these packs, they're going to have a higher chance of opening them.
Necropotence has gotten very, very high. It's about $40 now.
This card used to be like $5.
Yeah. So we just need to reprint it because, again, that's going to creep up there towards the $70 range and just be unobtainable for most people, and it's kind of a black staple.
Yep. Guardian Project is one of Green's many ways to draw cards per creature. $17. So this card, I think, it's great. It's very balanced. I think it's totally fine where it's at. We have all sorts of other versions of this, but Guardian Project is very good for Commander specifically. And again, this is perfectly fine in the standard legal set.
It was in standard not very long ago. Didn't break anything. Put it back in standard. Just keep that price low. Because one of the things you want to look at is cards around this range that are going to be double this and unobtainable very soon.
Yeah.
The next one, Sword of Feast and Famine. We've been talking about this one for years. Again, this is a staple, can go on most commander decks. It's $60 now. Yeah, $60 is too much. Let people get a hold of this thing. Just reprint it in a Modern Horizons.
Yeah, or I won't fill my car up with gas one time to buy this card.
What? Wow, $60 worth of gas in your car?
Yeah,
California, everybody.
California's pretty tough. Yeah. My car also has 13 gallons that I can fill up, so it gets up there. Vidalcan Orrery. This one's simple. You can put this in standard without even laughing, chuckling, smiling, frowning. Just do it. I don't know.
It's $30. It's my favorite card, so
it should be more like 100, right, Josh?
The card is not good enough to be $30, by the way. So that's just...
Don't say that too loudly. The evangelist will be knocking at your door. The next up are the Triomes, the Ketria and Doutha, all of them from Ikoria. These cards are just so good. They have the land types. You can cycle them. They tap for 3 different colors of mana. They're all above $10 now, and those prices are only going to go up because they, again, only showed up in that set. I think if you're doing a 3-color commander set, these are just the easiest. Chuck them in there, add some EV.
And one of the worst things people complain about for commander is building the mana base because dual lands are legal, and it feels bad to a lot of people that some people can have dual lands. So the last thing we want to do is make the other lands, like shock lands, triomes, that kind of stuff, hard for those people to get. Because
they've done a great job of shock lands. So I think they could do the same with the triomes.
Just make the triomes obtainable, keep them around, we can get them to $5 and just get them to live there, right? Like,
yeah.
There's no reason those need to be. They don't need to be like shock lands where sometimes they're 25.
Yeah.
Speaking of lands, the Battle Bond lands.
Woo.
And the original lands from Battle Bonds, like Luxury Suite and Morphic Pool, are over $20 now.
Jeez.
And then they did the other half of the cycle in Commander Legends, and those are already over $5. So those are going to be 10, 15, 20 by end of next year, and the OG ones from Battle Bond will be 30.
Yeah.
So again, this is the same thing as the Triumphs. Just don't let them get that high, because then it becomes tough to reprint them, and they sort of reach a different status, right? Where it's like, hey, if it's just like a regular Tri-land or a bunch of these other lands we reprint all the time, then they obtain the status of like...
They're going to be around. People don't need to hoard them or try and sell them or uptick their price, similar to sort of like those one print off from Commander products like Kindred Summons, right? People aren't going to be like, cool, now time to price gouge, because who knows when they're going to reprint them. You know, if they know, oh, these are coming at least once every year and a half, okay, they're going to...
We'll just price them at $3, $4 and sell them like they were the Hab lands or whatever.
The exact same argument can be made for the Medallion cycle. All of these are now creeping over $10. They were originally printed in some Commander products. These are just great. They just help mono 2-color decks a ton by reducing mana costs. They're cheap. They're basically a 2-mana rock in a lot of ways.
This is stuff that's existed for a while. It just helps smooth out the game for players.
Yeah.
So it's not like creating more powerful decks in any way or anything like that, as far as like speeding up the game. So it's not like creating arcane signets or anything. Just like let people have lands that will let them easily cast their spells. And make that part of the game cheap. I think that will just be a boon to all Commander players.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Those are reprints. By the way, almost all of them had to do with mana or card draw.
Yeah, there's a few like... There's the Dackside makes mana. Smothering Tithe makes mana. Yeah.
Jessica's Will's mana and card draw.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good point.
So,
okay. Let's move on here. Well, let's talk about the rule changes that happened this year, which were basically bans and unbannings. Not a lot, I would say, but actually a lot, because most years don't have multiple cards on the ban unban list, and this year did. We had 2 rounds of bannings, which is also kind of rare for a year. So Hull Breacher got the axe.
Yep. Null Breacher.
Breached. And then later in the year, not that long later, they decided to get rid of Golos, and then they brought back Worldfire.
So Nolos, but yes to Worldfire.
Nolos and Null Breacher, and then Yes Fire. I don't know. This is like Jesper. He would probably play Worldfire. Jesper would definitely play Worldfire.
Yeah, if it helped him win the game, he's there. Okay, so it's been a few months now. We've been able to really think about these bans a little more and maybe see it in action. I'm sure a lot of you back playing wherever you are will have seen or felt the Golos ban specifically. That seems like the one that affected the most people. I haven't really changed my opinion on any of this.
Well, yeah.
Except I don't care about Golos. At first I was like, Golos is fine, but now I'm like, yeah, whatever.
So Hull Breacher, we were on the same page. We both were like, fine, ban it.
Yeah.
Didn't love it. I was generally like, I thought it would be okay to keep it in the format, but they banned it, and I wasn't like, that's crazy. It's like, yeah, I think that's fine to ban it. Golos, I hated that ban. Do you
still not like it?
Yeah, I still think it was... I just do not think Golos should have been banned. It was the most popular commander. We laid out a whole video, so I won't go into it here. But having chewed on it for a couple of months now, still think it was a bad idea to ban that card. I have no change of opinion.
For me, I've just seen more and more comments of people being like, yeah, I had to get rid of Golos, but it made me do something a little more interesting instead. So I've seen enough of that comment for me to go, okay, maybe the players themselves don't mind as much. And if they're personally finding a better expansion of their sort of like playability as a result, then I'm fine with it. But still.
But I think anything you ban, they would...
True.
They would say that, right? Like, because they're forced to, and then they would be like, oh, so I did this instead, and a few months down the line, their life's gonna continue because it's a game. And
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Worldfire unbanned. What do you think about that?
Haven't seen it played against me. Don't look forward to seeing it played against me. But when it does, it's gonna be no different than someone comboing out in turn 3 or 4.
Or just casting Expropriate, right?
Casting Expropriate, yeah.
I will lose.
Yeah, I will lose. Hopefully you know how to win the game past this point, because this Worldfire, it's the whole world's getting burned up. And I'm personally a fan of fire and burning things, so I guess that's fine.
All right, let's talk about something interesting we haven't done in past episodes like this, but the biggest controversies of the year. You know, Magic is...
Yeah, wait, what if we based a whole video off of just kind of... Just kidding.
Magic is always embroiled in some kind of controversy, especially if you're on like social media of any kind. It seems like every couple of days there's like a new controversy. So we're going to talk about what the biggest controversies of the year were. The Golos banning, I would say, is definitely one of them, but we just talked about it, so there's not a lot to go into.
A lot of decks got affected by it. Obviously, players were upset, especially the monocolored players. They're like, Golos is better than any commander I could put in this slot.
Which I don't think is true, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Golos was a whole thing and a lot of contention and a lot of controversy on Twitter and everywhere else. Fine. The next one was something that was earlier in the year, and I don't know that we ever really dwelled on it, Jimmy, but the set boosters containing exclusive commander cards is something that I believe had happened once or twice last year, but really this year happened. They started doing for every standard legal set.
Yeah, I think they want just to sell more set boosters as opposed to draft and the other types. Now, don't forget, you can still get these commander cards other places, right? It's not just in those set boosters. I thought you were able to get some of them in other places. Either way,
I think they're only in the set boosters, but I could be wrong. I don't know where else you would get them. They're not in the commander product and they're not in the main set. So what is the other alternative there?
channelfireball.com/command. I don't think this had a massive effect on the prices of anything. I didn't see anyone being like, because it's only available in set boosters, you're never going to be able to get this. It's $1 billion.
Right.
So I think that was the main thing I was on the lookout for. If it was like all of a sudden, hey, look, these 5 exclusive set booster cards are literally so much more expensive just because of that, that would have been a problem. But I think enough people opened the set boosters that these were able to circulate into the environment.
It is, I think, my main objection to it is just sort of similar to our early discussion in that it causes them to have to create more commander-specific cards.
Yeah.
They got to make 7 or 8 of these every single set in addition to the commander product plus whatever they're designed for the set. It's like all of a sudden, it's just a lot of stuff that's for commander that I feel like is generally speeding up the format in a way that hurts its longevity. But specifically the fact that there are commander cards inside of the set boosters, I don't think is the biggest of problems. It's just indicative of sort of a larger issue, I think.
Yep.
Okay, the next controversy of the year, and this would be easy to forget. It doesn't have to do with Commander, but it's sort of interesting to talk about, which was the ending of the MPL.
Magic Pro Leagues.
So they announced that this season, the 2021 and 2022 season, was going to be the last season of the MPL. Now, they announced that early on in 2021, and I believe the reason was because if you are in the MPL, it's kind of like your job and your future that you're planning around. And so they wanted to give, I think they came from the right place if they wanted to give those people enough time, largest amount of warning possible of what was happening, even though they don't really have an answer to what comes next. But at least they weren't like,
see you, bye.
Yeah, wasn't there that CEO that's been all over the news for like firing 900 people over Skype or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be that person, right? You don't want to be just a jerk. Like you come out and you fire a bunch of people and you say, you're fired today. Or
sorry, bye, pack your things up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Wizard's heart was in the right place as far as just like, listen, we know we have to make this move. Let's make it in a way that gives the softest landing possible to the people involved with it.
Yeah. I think looking a little bigger picture though, Magic Pro League, Magic Pro stuff just doesn't capture the right amount of attention that I think it makes it viable as a business.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is specifically the way that the MPL was set up, because Pro Magic has been a thing for a very long time. Do you think that there is some version of Pro Magic that could be successful, or are we just like, is it just something that's...
Maybe, but I still think, right, like if you look at the actual numbers, and this is just being truthful about it, look on Twitch, look on YouTube, look at the numbers that they get streaming wise, attention wise, are not impressive, and they're also not enough to, I think, move the chains when it comes to competing against the other very major properties that dominate that space. And so you're putting a lot of money into these different efforts to sort of grow this scene, and if the literal viewer base is going, we don't really care, we'd rather watch this, we'd rather watch someone just play draft and not be a pro, then you're going to lose the effect of why you have the MPL in the first place. So you're trying to like push a norm of competition or a norm of competitiveness that people don't care about. And that is not a viable thing for any company to do.
Yeah, I think it's unclear to me if Pro Magic can work. I think there's some setup or structure where maybe it could. This clearly wasn't it, and I think they made a lot of mistakes. Obviously, the MPL itself, like how you get in and how the point systems work and everything, was like confusing as heck.
Yeah.
For Magic players, even like, I don't know how you even get into it. And then also they were doing weird things like a new set would come out and they would have a tournament that didn't include those cards from the new set.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That just seems insane and crazy of a decision to make, and just indicative of like bad planning or bad strategizing as far as what the MPL is supposed to do and accomplish. Because we've seen other players, and I think Jeff Hoogland and some other people like run their own tournaments that get a lot more views than what the MPL would get. So Tournament Magic and Arena is very, very popular. So you would think there's an audience there for players that are like, want to watch the best of the best and basically net deck their stuff or learn what they're doing and try to do it to win more. So I feel like there is some sort of combination that could work, but the MPL just wasn't it.
It's really tough too. They're competing in a market that, unless your team that's making it is incredibly good at what they're doing, you're gonna face a lot of hurdles and a lot of complications trying to beat out the other players in the field in terms of showing, hey, this is a high level of a game.
Yeah.
Because again, the streaming and the creator and the creator economy has completely sort of thrown a lot of this stuff on its head, because people sometimes just want to watch the offline TV tournament for Valorant that features players that are not pros at all, but they like them as personalities. So that's why I think those Jeff Hoogland type tournaments can do better and maybe a better indicator of what the future looks like on that level of gameplay. Because you can still give prize money to these people and you can still have some great players, but you can also have underdogs that people just love to watch on stream. And that may generate better numbers, better engagement, because people aren't necessarily going to watch Magic because they want to see the highest level of gameplay. And I think Commander being really popular also harkens to that fact that people just like the game and what it elicits, not necessarily the pros of the pros doing the best at it.
But Jimmy, we are the pros of the pros and the best Magic players that have ever existed,
That's
right?
right. It's kind of crazy being at the top, Josh. It's real cold up here, looking down on all those small ant-like people below us.
We are so... I've played with Brian Kibler and, the very high
real
level,
pro players.
real pro players. And we are so bad at Magic compared to them, with Melissa DeTora and Ben
Dude,
Stark.
I make mistakes on camera in front of millions of people every single episode, so I'm one to talk.
All right. The next big controversy of the year was the Secret Lair Stranger Things. And I don't think maybe Stranger Things by itself, but just the idea of universes beyond an outside IP sort of being brought into Magic as brand new cards and not just reskins.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, there's a very vocal group of people that don't like it, that's for sure. A lot of discussion online in general about it, but also the same thing happens every single time where the discussion sort of gets like, when you see a lot of people that are like, hey, I never knew about Magic, but now I do, and I want to talk about it now. And that happened a ton with Dungeons & Dragons, a little bit less so, I think, with Stranger Things, and less so with Walking Dead.
Well, we don't have the Stranger Things cards yet, too.
Yeah, and we don't know how they play out. I personally am mixed, because I thought that the art could have been a little better. I thought the flavor on 11 could have been better. But I do also love the idea of the self-contained partner pairings within them. I think that's going to create for a lot of interesting deck types. And when the game comes down to being about personal expression and people are already painting whatever they want on the cards, I'm kind of fine with things that expand the play ability of Commander without breaking it. Like if the Stranger Things cards were just not so powerful, then no one would like it. But the fact that they're not in that range, I'm feeling okay about it.
I kind of feel like how I feel about like spice on food. Which is like a lot of times you get a dish and it needs a little salt or it needs a little something.
Sriracha.
Yeah. Okay, a little sriracha. That's a good one.
There you go.
And then you put the sriracha in and it's more to your taste and you like it. My problem is that I think Wizards often says, oh, you like that? Then have all of that you could ever hope for. Let's just do that every day. And then that's my worry, right? Because it feels like they were like, oh, you like full art lands? Let's do full art lands in every set. Oh, you
players like this? Yeah,
you like masterpieces and invocations, or what do they call them? Expeditions? Let's do that in every set. This is just like their MO. And that's what scares me, because I think it's actually Stranger Things. Walking Dead we didn't like for a number of reasons. Didn't have to do necessarily with the Universes Beyond thing. I think D&D was a success. And I just hope they use it sparingly, use it like salt or sriracha. You still want the main dish to be what it is you're enjoying about the food.
Good point. It's not like a tapas place.
Yeah, because it does spoil the food if you put too much salt in it, even though it can also make the food better if you put a little bit of salt in it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think.
Also on the tapas thing, it's not like you're going to get like a normal salty dish and then like ice cream.
Yeah.
Right? Or something from a completely different region of the world. You're getting it from one specific region. So you can't fusion ha everything so much.
I like that.
So
too.
I do like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we do have Street Fighter and Fortnite Secret Lairs coming up.
40K.
40K, Baldur's Gate.
Those feel more in the world. Stranger Things and Walking Dead feel more
in Fortnite.
Godzilla's really in the middle, right? So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
So, but I think the main thing is that these are not full sets. When they go into the like, it's like 2 steps out of the circle into Fortnite, into these worlds, they're only taking, like, they're doing a splash of stuff. So I think that is the saving grace of all of this.
A little bit of salt, just a
pinch of salt. Yeah, there you
go. There's another Secret Lair thing, and I don't know if this is a controversy, but we never talked about it, and it's interesting. Have you seen this?
Yeah, the ultra rare upside down
backwards.
Backwards, yeah. Viscera Seer.
Viscera Seer. So there's these Viscera Seers, and I think only a few of them have turned up.
100 total, I believe.
We think because they're numbered.
Right.
We don't really know that they're all, like it says like 3 of 100 or 77 of 100 or whatever. We'll show some pictures of it. They've come in some secret layers. Like you can just randomly get them, I guess.
I think they're in the Phyrexian one specifically.
And it's just all the writing on Viscera Seer. Actually, the whole card is just backwards, right?
Yeah, like like you're looking at it in a mirror. Actually, I think if you put it up to a mirror, it would read straight regularly.
So we don't know what this is. They're probably, Wizards is very clever, so my guess is they're like hinting at something that's happening. But also these, if there's only 100 of these cards that have ever been made, which is what they think now because of the way they're numbered, they're very, very rare.
Yeah, less than a lot of really rare cards, right? There are more Black Lotuses in the world than
Way
these.
more, yeah. So I don't know, this is a controversy. Again, we don't know much about it, but it's an interesting thing that is happening.
Yep, and we see that also happening with Kamigawa, with they're adding the hollow foil extra,
Hidetsugu.
the Hidetsugu extra rare versions of it, similar to like what baseball and basketball cards do.
Yeah, the Neon Ink.
Yeah, Neon Ink, there it is. So we are seeing a push towards, like, I would call it hyper rarity, beyond mythic rare, or like
Beyond Masterpiece even,
yeah. Masterpiece, yeah. And I don't really know the economics well enough to know if this is a good or a bad thing. I know it's great for collectors. I also know that when I saw that card, as someone that is a collector myself, I went, I don't care, I don't need it. Which is a good thing.
Yeah,
because
that means you've come to a healthy place in your life.
Yeah, hopefully. Geez, don't look at my collection anytime soon. Yeah, but I was like, okay, this is cool. I see what they're going at, but this doesn't make me go like, oh, I have to have it so badly. If I don't, blah, blah, blah. You know, so there was an element to that where I was glad that it wasn't so special. It was an older card. It was one that, you know, we have a lot of, and it's not super rare in and by itself, but the version of it is. So I was like, I'm okay with it.
All right, and we've got one more major controversy of the year, and it's been all the talk the last few weeks on Magic Twitter and social media, which is the MTG Alchemy format in Arena.
Yeah.
So they've done this new thing where they're gonna be able to sort of digitally change cards, errata them basically in Arena for an Alchemy format. However, I don't know why they did this, but they also decided that those alchemy cards, those change cards, would affect historic.
Yeah, I don't know why.
So there's been a lot. There's sort of two major things that the community is upset about. One is just the fact that they are making cards that will be different digitally on Arena than will exist in paper.
Yeah.
That has been a thing, and that has already occurred. There were cards that existed in Arena that just don't exist in paper, and now there's going to be somebody might play an Ink Shield, and it does something different on Arena than, like, let's say they decide Ink Shield is too powerful, and on Arena they change it so that it makes a 2/1 flyer for each creature attacking you.
Yeah.
Then that's very different than what it does if I play it in a game of Commander. So there's some people that don't like that, think there'll be some confusion there. I'm not sure that is true, but it's a valid point to be.
We'll see.
argued.
Magic is evolving. That's all I'll say.
And then the other thing is the fact that they're not giving you wild cards, or there's no dust system like Hearthstone. So now they're changing cards for historic decks that were built. And that feels like a more valid criticism to me, where it's like, hey, I bought a product, I paid a certain amount of money for a product, and you're changing the product and not offering me any sort of rebate or refund, which does not feel fair.
Doesn't really affect Commander players too much. I will say that Arena is their testing ground for a lot of things, and so you'll see the most innovation / change happen there. And I would say, hold on to your butts, because who knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah, so an interesting controversy doesn't touch Commander, so we don't have to go super deep into it. But if you haven't heard about Alchemy, I don't know. There are interesting arguments sort of going on about it.
I think it's going to evolve quite a bit too. So if you care about that sort of stuff, just sort of pay attention to what's happening.
Do you play Arena much these days?
Only drafting.
Yeah, I only play Limited and Sealed. I'll play Sealed too.
Yeah.
But I play no constructed formats at all.
It's just not interesting to me personally.
I've got Commander to play.
Yeah, I've got
my
Commander.
Constructed format.
Very, very constructed. 100 card constructed.
All right, so let's wrap up here the year 2021 in Magic. We're going to start the wrap up by talking about the biggest successes of the year for Magic in our estimation, what we thought were the biggest wins by WotC and MTG. Number one, I'm going to say the Strixhaven Precon decks.
I agree.
I thought they were very, very good. I wish there were not so many Precon decks, but if you just look at those 5, so many throughout the year.
They did great.
They're just really, really solid. They're just really good decks.
New ideas for red-white. Being an artifact recursion theme now, I thought that was great to just expand what the color pie meant for them.
Yep, just all the decks are interesting. They all have interesting cards. Nothing was broken or too powerful. It didn't warp the format in any way.
Yeah.
I just think Strixhaven precons knocked it out of the park. That was a big win this year.
Yeah, another huge win is that we had good legendary creatures, no commanders that just stood out of the way that went, hey, why does this exist? So we had Corvold and Chulane, both from a very, right when they first doing those brawl-specific decks, definitely overtuned, overpowered, and ended up being just completely extremely popular, but also very just busted in a lot of ways, and
Just
made for
ubiquitous
unfun
in the power level too.
Yeah, and made for unfun environments where people took 50-minute turns or whatever.
I think they hopefully learned after last year, like, hey, let's stop making these commanders that say, like, if you sneeze, draw a card and make some mana. You know what I mean?
That's an unset card.
Yeah. But that's what it feels like. They went through a period of 18 months or so where there was just so many commanders coming out, and the commanders basically said, like, scratch your nose, draw a card, and make mana.
Yeah.
You know? And they've learned, like, that's actually not fun for... and not healthy for commander if those resources are just trivial to get.
And they've done that still, but in a better way, like Will Helt and Millicent, right? They've found ways to make these cards like, okay, here's a way that we can have a benefit, but it's a tribe.
Yeah.
Or it's very specific, and you have to build around this sort of way. It's not just like Chulane, which is just do anything, do a thing.
Draw cards.
Yeah, oh boy, do you like sacrificing things in Commander? Yeah, it turns out 90% of your deck can do that and make you draw your entire deck if you want.
Yeah, I think they've learned to go narrow, not broad. They started out broad,
Yeah.
The next biggest win of the year, I think, was new white cards. And this is something we've been talking about for a number of years. It's nice to sort of start to see a shift, I think, happening. We got Esper Sentinel, Welcoming Vampire, Archaeomancer's Map. In general, I can really feel WotC's eyes sort of turn towards white, focus there a little bit, and trying to bring them up to speed with the other colors. Red has been, over the last 5 years,
killing it.
So many great cards with Jessica's Will, Underworld Breach, Dockside Extortionist, tons of stuff. Stormkilling Artist, Bergie, like there's tons of crazy.
Yeah.
White, I'm hopeful, is starting to get there, and they're starting to sort of have a plan for it.
I think so too. And I think the thing that they need to be doing more of is more Welcoming Vampires and Archaeomancer Maps types cards.
Less Esper Sentinels and Smothering Tithe.
Yeah. They're very good. Don't get me wrong, but Esper Sentinel is good because it goes in also every single deck that plays white. So that's not where you want to be. I think they need to narrow it a little bit more to white, or just make the cost like white. What if there's like a white Necropotence type card?
Restrict it really to white. Yeah, that's great.
Also, a big win is that we did not have to talk about anything that was so broken that we all hated it so much. Hullbreacher, Opposition Agent, Jewel Lotus were all cards that we had on our radar last year that we were like, I don't know.
I think Opposition Agent has turned out to be mostly fine. Jeweled Lotus, I think, has been what we thought, which it sucks most of the time that it comes out early. And Hullbreacher got banned, so...
Yeah, and Jeweled Lotus, I think, just really affected the CEDH crowd a lot, too, and just really pushed things in that world, so...
Yeah. Turgid is the only card I think you could make a case for this year.
Yeah.
Okay. And you put down... This is good.
Red Black's rise to power. Red Black has just been getting all of the treats. You know, I remember when I had to play the Rakdos Showstopper deck, and I was like, Red Black's okay. And I played the Neheb deck before that. Red Black was not good back then. Now it's great. We have Prosper Tomebound, Carter Doomscourge, Florian, Olivia, Crimson Bride, right? All of these really powerful Red Black cards and commanders. And I think that is similar to how Red White got an upgrade in terms of what they can do and what they're about.
Okay, now let's talk about the biggest whiffs of the year. The biggest losses for Magic and Wizards this year. Reprints, I think, were just fine. There were some good big ones that we talked about, but in general, the fact that there are not any big reprints in any of the standard sets, it seems like just huge, because there are a number of standard legal sets every single year, so that is at least 10 to 15, $40 plus cards that we could have had reprinted this year that aren't going to happen.
Yeah.
And what happens is that tends to make it so that they're going to double in price and make it even harder to reprint in the future, and there'll be even more cards that you need to reprint in the future, and so if you don't keep up, you fall behind, then the format just gets more and more expensive.
They can't rely on the Modern Horizon set every single time to be the reprint set either, because that's where most of them came from this year.
Yeah, you gotta put a couple in all the standard legal sets.
Graham Tudor was in a core set.
Smothering
so was Ugin.
Okay. Too much product. Another big whiff of the year, I think.
Yeah, and we get it. Commander's great. Thank you. We love it. But we also can't take too much of it.
Oh, you like that? Then have it every day all the time. Then have all the donuts in the world.
It's like that. It's like the thing in Spirited Away where it just starts eating everything. They're like, give it more, and then it's just Commander players like, yeah. But at a certain point, we're gonna throw it all up.
Format stewardship. This is something that has been on my radar for the last few months, and I've been worried about a little bit. It's related to too much product. I think that the format of Commander is becoming too fast. We've talked about this a lot over this year, I'd say, right? How the format's speeding up.
Yeah. 2-mana rocks, 3-mana rocks are not as good anymore.
You basically never see 3-mana rocks. Even Coalition Relic, I started taking out of decks because they made Liquid Metal Torque, and So I think this has been a failure this year of Wizards as far as having an overall plan for the Commander format. I think their plan was like, it's popular, let's give them a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But they need to think of like, listen, what do people like about the format? And while we're giving more stuff to those players, let's make sure that we don't crush and destroy the things they like about the format. And I think one of the things people like about the format,
it's fun and casual.
And you get to play the big splashy stuff. And we've talked a lot this year about, hey, listen, you got to lower your curve a little bit because the games are faster and you can't play as many 7, 8, 9 drops. And originally the format was kind of supposed to be the place where you could do that stuff. And as it's evolved and gotten faster and more cards have come in, man, I can't put very many 7 drops in my deck anymore because I just will not be able to play them.
Yeah, and if you do, someone's going to be so far in front of you that even playing it doesn't catch you up anymore, right? Even cards like Sun Titan, that we used to think were just the bee's knees.
It's hard to play that card now, to be honest, right? Like, do you play Sun Titan in all your white decks? No. You put it in some where there's synergy, but you just can't play it all the time. So I wish and I hope that Wizards and the people over there would sit down, and maybe they've done this, and come up with like a plan for stewardship of the format.
Yeah.
To really have some, maybe some rules or guidelines that say like, when things push us in this direction, we don't want to do that. Jewel Lotus is not a healthy thing that we want to be happening.
Yeah, we'd rather focus a little more on this side of it. And I think we got a little closer because there was a lot of product and nothing inherently broke things as much, but things are still trending downwards in terms of CMC, mana value, average mana value and all that. So I know we can't obviously run the other direction, but we can at least go, whoa, there on the horse and maybe like keep it to a trot instead of an increasing. Like was one actually the things happens when you're on the horse, if you're not careful, you start going faster and faster and faster. And before you realize it, you're in a full-blown gallop. Let's not get to the gallop.
Yeah, I like that. All right, switching gears here. We are going to talk about 2022 and our hopes for the next year, but really quickly, we wanted to sort of talk about our channel, Command Zone, our content, because it was a big year for us.
This is year 8, Josh?
We're going into year 8. This was year 7 under our belts. Yeah.
We're almost in middle school.
So, it was a landmark year for the Command Zone. We had the most views we've ever had in a year. We had the most watch time, which is an important metric for YouTube that we've ever had in a year.
Yeah.
We crossed 500,000 subscribers this year.
500,000, so cool.
We just released our 50th episode of Game Nights. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's great. 50, 500, a lot of 5-0s here.
Yeah, and it's our 5th year anniversary for Game Nights also.
Nice.
Not for podcasts, that's 7 years.
Yeah.
But Game Nights, I can't believe it's been 50 episodes. It's crazy.
We've only released 70 episodes of the podcast and
this year.
Yeah, that's wild. A lot of huge landmarks there. And not only that, but we've been increasing certain parts about Game Nights that we never would have been able to in year 1.
Yeah.
And starting with like the guests, I think is a great example of that. This guy named Austin came on the show. Pretty cool guy.
Oh yeah, we had
missing a few teeth. Deathstroke.
Joe Manganiello. We had Hawk. We had Miguel, who is actually Sholo, and Jacob from Cobra Kai.
Aaron from Game Grumps, highly requested. Really fun having him on.
Yeah. Of course, Posty is Austin, as you said, is the big highlight of the year. But even if you took him off, this is by far our biggest year for like sort of big name guests on Game Night. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, and it was great. Again, because of Dungeons and Dragons, we were able to get Joe Manganiello, right? Yeah. So that is a connection that I hope we can keep making more of in the future. Maybe there's some big Warhammer 40K nut out there too.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to ask you, in 2022, what is your dream guest or somebody attainable? I said Barack Obama when we did our behind the scenes.
I was gonna say Obama.
I don't think we could actually get him, but like, let's put it, what is it when you it manifests. Yeah,
exactly. Put it out into the universe. Well, this is kind of a cheat because I have been asking them about whether or not they play, but I have heard that members of the Try Guys, who I've collaborated with multiple times in the past, have been on their show, do play Magic. Now, I don't know their Commander-specific knowledge or if they play Commander, but as the year goes on, there's plenty of time for them to learn, and there's plenty of sets, hopefully, that they can jump in with us, or at least some of the members. Who knows?
That would be really cool. I got a good one, but I don't know that he plays, but I know that he likes things that are kind of magic adjacent.
Oh.
So Henry Cavill.
That's right. The Witcher himself, Superman.
We know he plays World of Warcraft, and he's a gamer who builds computers and stuff, plays Warhammer.
Yeah, true.
So Warhammer is going to come out this year.
Wait a minute. He's our Joe Manganiello for Warhammer?
Maybe. Listen, don't get excited because we don't know him or anybody that knows him, but
If Joe's watching,
I just want to manifest it.
I hope you like that I compared you to Henry Cavill or the other way
They're both
around.
super buff.
You're both super buff and handsome and beautiful people and
Both
talented
of them
nerds.
could crush us with one hand. Jeez.
With one stroke of... Okay. Yeah, that'd be really
Oh, they
cool.
exist in the same DC universe, too,
That's
so
true.
maybe they'll fight someday.
Or together on game nights. Right, now we're really going out of hand. Okay.
Another thing that happened this year is we had the most episodes of extra turns that we've ever had.
You have to read what you wrote.
Extra turns.
Thank you.
So we released 11 episodes of XT this year.
Wow.
And I think it's been a really good chance for us to kind of get back to our roots and show off our own personal decks. It's also been an opportunity to introduce our Command Zone staff to the audience.
Yeah, and let us know, too, if you guys have enjoyed seeing more of the people around the office. Obviously, there are so many talented deck builders and players here and great personalities. So Extra Turns is a really awesome way to highlight that part of our hardworking team here.
And we should say our team has continued to grow this year. We've added a bunch of people, so we've got a much bigger team than we used to have. Allows us to do a bunch of stuff that we've never done before, which is the next point, the special projects that we did this year.
Yep.
So we used to, only twice before, we did kind of a little sketch for the holiday episodes. Remember that one where we were in sleeping bags on the ground?
Yeah.
And St. Nicol Bolas showed up.
Yeah, with the claw and everything.
And then we did the holiday movie parodies
with Josh, Kim, and Lady sitting on the couch.
Yep. And Craig doing the, what is that? Love Actually.
The Love Actually sign.
Yeah.
Me running through the streets, you carrying me up a mountain. Yeah, that was great.
So this year we really, we really did a lot more of that, and we did it throughout the year. And you kind of talked about this earlier, Jimmy, but the Strixhaven College videos
that was the start, I think.
Yeah, that was our first foray into what if we did this more often? We did it all on green screen down here in the office. We'll show some behind the scenes footage, but
behind the scenes footage,
sorry. And this project was a little bit over ambitious, I'll say. We barely got it done, and it was a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah, it wasn't just let's do our favorite college. Let's do every single one, bespoke things, college, and the premise was awesome. It's the kind of thing that you would submit to a company if you're doing a brand deal for them, maybe a year in advance.
Yeah, and we did the whole thing in 6 weeks. It was a lot of it was a couple of back-to-back 90-hour work weeks at the end there. Our team really, really worked their butts off, but we were passionate about it and we wanted to pull it off and make it cool. In fact, we're going to show the college videos. We've done 4 special projects. We're going to show them all. If you're watching on audio, we won't show them because they don't work very good in audio. But if you're watching the video on YouTube, then you're going to get to watch the Strixhaven college videos here. I think the Silver Quill one, which we're going to start with, is everybody's favorite.
Oh yeah,
that turned out super good. But they're all awesome in many ways. So we're going to play them real quick.
So you think you could be Silver Quill? Call yourself one of us, try and say we're the same. Carry our title and brandish our name.
What's in a name? With the Stygian ink that flows thick through our veins?
We craft poems and prose into blades from our brains, slicing sharp through our foes with each refined refrain.
From the darkest of swamps to the vastest of plains.
We train in the arcade.
And you think you could be Silverquill?
We are the leaders, out front the trendsetters. Slick, stylish go-getters, you won't find any better.
We are the speakers whose words shape the discourse.
Armed with artful imperatives, our adjectives out in force.
You can hate us, but don't even try to debate us. We are in our own league.
We have flow that keeps flowing. We will never stop going. No sign of fatigue.
You want style cut with power and the guts to pursue it?
Want respect and acclaim and to know how to use it.
You think you could be Silver Quill?
Prove it.
Why did I choose Witherbloom?
Why did I choose Witherbloom?
Why did I choose Witherbloom?
Because I don't mind getting my hands dirty.
Because no cave is too dark.
Why did I choose Witherbloom? Because I get to work with animals.
Because I have a green thumb.
Because
in Witherbloom, I get to be me.
Witherbloom, a place where you can grow.
When you walk through the Lorehold Hall of Alumni, an aura of distinction hangs thick in the air. Scholars, leaders, and champions line these walls. Scholars like Anderson Langley Hart, genius crypto archivist who successfully restored 300,000 scrolls from the Lost Library of Alexandria, in the process uncovering evidence of a larger, more ancient, and even loster library. Leaders like Tanya Yearly, legendary explorer and diplomat who intervened in a decades-long civil war, channeling the spirits of Gandhi, Mangara, and the belligerent grandmothers of the two enemy warlords to forge a lasting peace agreement. Champions like Titus Marsh, renowned pro-Mage Tower player who, when the rest of his team was sick with severe food poisoning, drew upon the stratagems of Genghis Khan and Odric Lunarch Marshall to win the 1946 Mage World Cup entirely by himself. Countless legends line this hall, but at its end, an empty portrait hangs. It stands ready, waiting for those who have the drive and the courage to earn their place among giants. Lorehold College. Start your story.
Here at Quandris College, our students think a little bit differently. We are innovators, inventors. We are mental equestrians always looking for that next big brain challenge. Might seem like we have all the answers, but in reality, we're more about the questions. How fast? Oh, way faster. How big? So much bigger. Could a human outrace a dragon? We should probably look into that one a little bit more. The first thing that we need to do is assume that a dragon can scale something like an animal that we already know of, and that our human is going to be a 1/1 token with Swiftfoot boots on, or else this is going to be a real short race. But this is obviously getting a lot more complicated, so I think I need some help. We also have to consider whether or not our dragon will be breathing fire on our other competitors. So of course, if you are moving that swiftly with something like Swiftfoot boots, the boundary layer around a person through a and I guess it matters what kind of dragon we're talking. To realize here is that the bigger the thing doesn't necessarily.
If you're still with us, you might be one of us. Quandrix College. You've got answers, we've got questions.
You begin with nothing. And then, a spark. An idea. It takes hold of you. That spark becomes a flame. It's a drop of water that becomes a river. A torrent changing all it touches. You are an artist. Where others see chaos, you see a canvas. It's not easy, but you fight past your doubts. You persevere. You're passionate. You're proud. You're a prodigy. You are Prismari. And of course, the Lore Hall video was animated.
Yeah, entirely animated with Marshall narrating and all that.
Yeah. Again, another chance for us to pull in our friends and people we want to work with or get to know, to have, little cameos and roles like that.
I think that was the first time we got to work with Erika Ishii.
Yep.
We've obviously worked with Josh Kim and Daniel Kim a lot, Cerberus Arms. But it was great because it was so cool just like looking at our friend group and being like, yeah, you are part of this school.
Yeah.
Yeah, this does work for you. Nice. Perfect.
Yeah, you're totally DJ was like, you just look Lorehold.
Yeah.
By the way, DJ's outfit in the video, he just owned that. That was his outfit that he already owned.
And his whole thing is literally an elephant, right? Yeah. It's like, it almost matches, it just feels so Lorehold, yeah. The next one that we did was me and Josh going to play Magic the Gathering in a D&D tavern. And this was so much fun because we really got to stretch out and ask for a lot of different people to come in that we had never worked with before. And now we have all these new connections.
Yeah, we met a lot of people through this. And this was... I should say that all this stuff was written by Jordan Pridgeon, and Jamie Block helped with the last couple. Dan Sheehan helped with this next one. Mm-hmm. Jordan wrote the Strixhaven stuff by himself, so they did a great job sort of conceptualizing.
Yeah, big props to those guys.
Yeah. This, again, was also done on a green screen. So the tavern was created digitally in Unreal Engine, and our VFX team and Jake Boss and everybody did a really great job like comping all this stuff in, because the tavern looks amazing.
Yeah, and this is the first time we also started to really reach into building things in Unreal Engine, too.
Yeah.
So that was another big step that we started making. You might see it sort of in the beginning of some of the Game Nights episodes when we talk about the product. All of a sudden, they're in like a forest and stuff. So this sort of technology started to get opened up to us around the D&D Tavern video time.
All right, let's play the D&D video. Are you sure this isn't LGS?
Yeah, that's what it says on my maps. Hey, look, free table.
You say so. Does anybody want to play Magic the Gathering?
I'll cast Confiscate. I'll take that. Blatant Thievery. I'll just grab these. Do you guys want to just hand me your decks just to save time?
I play Vorpal Sword, and I don't equip it because my hands are my weapon. was.
Wait, then why'd you play it?
Well, if I didn't play it, then I couldn't not equip it, could I?
And with that, my new life total is 245.
No offense, but do you have a win con in there somewhere?
I think a life gain is its own reward.
Nature's Claim, does it resolve?
Yes.
Path to Exile, does it resolve?
Yes. Why do you keep asking me that?
You're a wizard. You might counter me.
I'm playing mono green.
I attack with all of my spiders.
But you've only got one spider.
You hurt me.
I play Faithless Looting!
Oh.
I'm out of spells.
You're gonna draw a card next turn.
I guess it's time for a long rest.
That's not a thing in Magic.
Nature's lore, rampant growth, explosive vegetation. I love nature.
Okay, then I'm gonna take my turn. I attack you, Josh.
What? Jimmy, that's not a good attack. I have a lot of blockers.
Oh no, what a misplay.
I see your board is underdeveloped. Would you like to make a deal?
Not when you say it like that.
I attack with everything. I attack with everything. I attack with everything.
Anything after combat?
After combat, don't follow.
So, what do you think? Is the barbarian playing mono red?
Verna plays Swamp, cast Dark Ritual, and float mana. Play Lion's Eye Diamond, play Mana Crypt. Into Mana Vault, play Doomsday. Crack Lion's Eye Diamond, 2 float blue. Order Librarius, Night's Whisper. Thassa's Oracle, attack.
Now the practical elements that were there was the table in front of us and the dice and all that stuff. So it's cool. You can blend a little bit of the real with a lot of the fake.
Yeah,
but you can't tell.
That turned out really good.
And the door we opened in the beginning.
Oh yeah, just the door. They'll show you a behind the scenes footage, but behind the door and to the sides of the door is just green.
And people holding it up as
oh yeah, because it couldn't move.
Yeah.
We also did a video for the Innistrad Crimson Vow, which was Jimmy and I on our way to Olivia's wedding.
Why didn't we actually make it to the game night table is because of this video, yeah. So let's show it. I'm pretty excited about this vampire wedding thing. Sounds fun.
Really? To me, it's a little strange we were even invited.
What are you talking about? We get invited to magic events all the time.
Yeah, but is this a magic event? On the RSVP, it asked our blood type. That was weird.
It's probably just for safety concerns. Loosen up.
Yeah, but we've been driving through this spooky forest for hours. Look, that sign says speed limit is a horse. Are you sure we're going the right way?
Okay, fine. I'll turn on the GPS.
You are on the fastest route. You will reach your destination by the 10th strike of the Ghoul Caller's Bell.
See, I told you we were going the right way.
After the bloody scarecrow, make a right at the larger, bloodier scarecrow.
Whoa, this GPS really knows the roads, huh?
In half a mile, do not answer. Old stick fingers, brittle. Instead, offer him a vial of ichor.
Did we bring any ichor?
Avoid tolls. Problem solved.
In 400 feet, turn into a bat.
Wait, turn into a... Jimmy, watch out! Well, I guess we gotta turn back now.
What are you talking about? It's right there! Looks like it's time for a night hike! Woohoo! Hey, we made it! Told you it'd be easy.
Really? It's a private event. I'm afraid you can't go in.
Huh? Oh, we were invited. We're Jimmy and Josh from Game Nights.
You're not on the list.
You didn't even check the list.
Not on list.
We just hiked a half-mile through Grimbackwoods to get here.
Being chased by wolves the whole time. In fact, I think that last wolf was trying to talk to us. That howl sounded a lot like How's It.
Check the list again. Jimmy Wong, Josh Lee Kwai.
Oh, my mistake. You are on the list.
Oh, thank God.
I was looking under guests. You two are under hors d'oeuvres.
What?
That can't be good.
What a beautiful ceremony. Tasteful, elegant, and just dangerous enough.
And this reception. Truly no expense was spared.
Is that film and television's Jimmy Wong?
Oh, yes, a delicious vintage. Want a sip?
Don't mind if I do. I've had blood from a real night before, but never a game night. It's a little salty.
Yeah, it was fun. We actually shot the car in the driveway out front of our office, with just a green screen behind it. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, we had Damon with a literal
Damon and Shauna with
lights on their phones going like this to simulate cars passing by.
Well, yeah,
I don't
was
even
it
know
the
if you
light
could really
coming
feel
through
it.
the trees?
Yeah.
Through the trees.
The trees,
Yeah,
that's
I think
right,
that it works really well actually when you watch it. The light feels real. So
yeah. And we had a bunch of great cameos there too. B. Dave Walters finally got to work with him, and he nailed it, absolutely rocked it. So it was really cool to just watch the team come together and figure out how to make a full-blown production, but with a limited staff, when people that had never done a lot of these jobs before. So that to me is the heart of indie YouTube filmmaking.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever said it in the episode, but we also had Xander and Eliza and B-Dave. They're all from LA by Night, which is a Vampire the Masquerade role-playing show on Twitch and YouTube. And Josephine McAdam, who was in that episode, is also from LA by Night. So it was a big nod towards the vampire role-playing community.
Yep.
And then, of course, just recently, this episode came out, the Blingmas Holiday episode for this year. And we did... This harkens back to, you can sort of see the progression of, we did a Peanuts sketch in the holiday episode last year, and then we did the Lorehold animated video this year, and then we were like, we should do this animation more.
Jimothy!
Yeah, so we came up with this Blingmas video, or Jordan and Jamie did, that we decided to do 3 different styles of animated sort of storytelling within it.
Yeah, Josh looking amazing next to Santa, me going through the forest.
I love your puppet, the style
It's
of
incredible.
it.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
We're going to have to do more with that. So anyway, we'll play the clip.
One Christmas night, Santa was flying his sleigh, delivering generous gifts to all the world's children. But then, a thick fog rolled across the land, making it impossible for Santa to complete his journey, and also preventing all combat damage. Santa wept. Oh no! But sitting next to Santa was his genius best friend, Josh, who came up with a brilliant idea.
What was it? What was it?
Joshua realized that Santa's sleigh was full of presents, including loads of fancy magic cards, foils, promos, secret layers, and more. Every bling card under the moon was in those sacks. So, Joshua rummaged through the bags until he found the perfect card, a foil secret layer chromatic lantern. He held it out towards the night sky, and its light shone so bright, it dispelled the fog faster than you can, dispel a fog. Santa was overjoyed.
Ho, ho, ho! You're incredible, Joshua! You saved Christmas, and your threat assessment is always perfect!
Thanks, Santa. I know. And so all the children got their presents, thanks to me. I mean, thanks to all the foil and shiny cards. Thanks to Bling. And that's why we celebrate Blingmas.
Wait, Blingmas? What's that?
Oh, it's the holiday every year where we get together and play the most blinged out decks we can. We got foils, promos as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, it's the best, but that's not how it started.
That's how I remember it.
Well, the real story is darker, more European, and features a better male lead. One Christmas back in the old country, a handsome, talented boy named Jimothy set off through the snow-covered forest to play commander with his grandma. He had been warned not to stray from the homeward path, but as he walked, a twinkle caught his eye.
Is that a Judge Promoristic study?
It was, but it was also a trap that led him into the secret lair of the Christmas Sphinx.
You have strayed from the path. Now I shall add you to my menagerie of misbehaving children. My collective company, if you will. Unless you give me a riddle that I cannot solve.
Jimothy pondered for a moment, chose not to shuffle, then pulled out a single card.
Here's your riddle. What's this card's name?
The Sphinx squinted and frowned.
What the Christmas heck is this?
The card was an Amonkhet invocation, so try as he might, he could not decipher the font.
All right, you can go.
And so, in his infinite cleverness, Jimothy was allowed to leave and trounce his grandmother with his mono red Neheb deck. That game was the first Blingmas, and every year we celebrate that big brain play by using all our fanciest and shiny cards.
Wait, so Jimothy abandoned all those kidnapped children?
Y'all talking about Blingmas? Well, you got it all wrong. What had happened was...
In the beginning, there was no Santa.
Until a group of 5 Blingeteers got together and let their powers combine.
Borderless!
Showcase!
Masterpiece! Secret lair!
Heart of Kieran! By your powers combined, I am Santa Claus!
Go Santa! And that's Blingmas, baby.
Look, we may never know how Blingmas really started, but we do know how it ends. Y'all begging for mercy as I obliterate your faces with the most shiniest, blinged out deck you've ever seen.
Oh, you are so on.
Let's go. Merry Blingmas, everyone.
Merry Blingmas.
That was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I guess that's our content from this year. And
the special projects, yeah.
Yeah,
sure,
the cool stuff that happened. Really appreciate everybody who watched everything and supported us this year.
Looking forward to doing more next year. And I will say that original Kickstarter we had that was about supporting game nights, the supporters that jumped on that Kickstarter back then, that's what really kickstarted, to put the word again, all of this to happen. More extra turns, more special things, bigger staff. Just allowed us to understand that we could dream a little bigger with your support. So as always, big thanks to everyone that supports us on Kickstarter as well as Patreon and everywhere else.
And trust me, we're dreaming even bigger and bigger. So keep that support up because we're going to make it worth your while. All right, let's look ahead really quick here to 2022 and what our hopes are for Magic.
Lots of big stuff coming.
Yeah, so we got Universes Beyond coming next year. We know Warhammer 40K being the really big one.
Lord of the Rings as well.
Yeah, I think Lord of the Rings is 2023.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, but Warhammer 40K is a big property that's coming in, going to be similar to, I think, to D&D. D&D has Baldur's Gate, right?
Yep,
for
Commander Legends set, yeah.
Yeah, so... I think we've already talked about Universes Beyond, how we feel about it, but that is definitely a big thing that's coming in 2022.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing and feeling it more like what we had with Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I would love to be able to repeat that success because that really made me have fun with the overall, the project and how it turned out and all the cards and all that stuff. So hopefully more of that.
We've got Commander products coming in next year, but we
don't know.
We don't know. I don't know. They probably...
We'll
if we had to place a bet, do you think there are going to be multiple sets next year that have 4 or more Commander decks?
Yeah. I think Warhammer and Baldur's Gate will both have 4 decks probably.
Yeah.
Minimum. And maybe one of the regular sets too.
I wish they wouldn't do that. Just do the 2 and then once a year do 5.
Yeah, well, Josh, I ain't no genie.
Okay.
Can't grant no wishes. Okay, we also have the Netflix Magic the Gathering series. We got a tiny preview of it. We know that Brandon Ruth is going to be voicing Gideon. Very exciting. Well, I haven't seen anything from it. I'm hoping it meets expectations. It's definitely a big thing to come on the heels of Arcane, which is League of Legends show, but also maybe League of Legends paved the way for shows like this one to succeed.
League of Legends Arcane took 6 years.
True.
This one will have taken about 3, I think.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be different animation styles and very much set. It's going to be its own thing, so please evaluate that such as well.
I think it will be unrealistic to hope that it's as good as Arcane, only because Arcane is so good. Very few things are that good, no matter what.
Yeah, they put a lot of time and effort into it, that's for sure.
So, let's measure the Netflix MTG series on its own. If it's just good for what it is and not in comparison to anything else, I'll be happy.
Yep. A bunch of new sets coming up. We got Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Streets of New Capenna, Warhammer 40K, The Brothers War, and then Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate. Yeah.
What set next year are you looking forward to the most at this point?
Neon Dynasty, man. I just love the colors. I love Kamigawa, so that's a no-brainer for me.
I gotta say New Capenna because I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah,
I'm just excited about the special projects we're gonna do.
That's the Game Nights episode. We're just going back and forth. Oh, my daughter's wedding. That'd be pretty funny.
Real quick, Command Zone content in 2022. Just wanted to put, again, manifesting here and putting it out there we want to do more of the special projects.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bring the roundtables back. That's kind of a point of emphasis. Obviously, it's going to be pandemic willing because that does make it a lot tougher.
Yes,
but that's something I think, or we got to figure out a better Skype situation. It's been hard to put them together in the past. They take more work than you think. But I know people like those, and I would like to bring them back and do them more regularly.
Yeah, and to balance it out as well, set reviews, so we're just not jumping from that into a roundtable into another set review, right? So hopefully breathing a little bit more there too.
This is going to sound crazy to some people, but higher production quality is one of our goals, always our goal.
Always be better.
We got some plans that will blow our current production quality out of the water if we can pull them off.
Yep.
Probably going to be months and months before we get to them, but it's coming.
We're working on it. Thanks to your support too, by the way.
And new programming, we've been working behind the scenes trying to figure out, we've got game nights, we've got extra turns, we've got the podcast, we've got the roundtable. What is a new content offering, a new show or series that we could put out in the world? And I think 2022 will be a year where we try and, maybe launch another show or another piece of content.
Or at least start developing it and testing the waters for it too.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody. I know there's been long episodes. Thanks for sticking with us, and thanks for sticking with us all year.
8 years.
7 years. 7 years, yeah. Into the 8th now. To the listeners, what were your favorite moments in Magic in 2021? What was your favorite set or product? What was your favorite piece of Command Zone content?
And what do you want to see more of in the future as we move into 2022? Whew. More cards.
If what you'd like to see more of is cards on your battlefield, then channelfireball.com/command is the place to go to get that stuff. At the time you're watching this, I believe it's winding down, but there is an auction on eBay going on right now. 4 auctions, actually.
Oh, yeah, for the decks we played in the Game Night's Bling Mess episode.
That's right. If you want to get your hands on Jimmy's Atraxis Secret Super Friends deck, my Dragons Without Borders, Aaron's Enlightened Masterpieces deck. That one's amazing. Olivia Saskia Showcase Showdown deck. Those decks, the physical decks we played on the episode, we actually all signed each of the commanders, and Channel Fireball generously is putting those up for auction, and all the proceeds are going to No Kid Hungry, which is a charity that helps mothers and children. It's trying to end child hunger in the U.S.
Yeah, very good charity.
All those links will be in the show notes if you want to get involved with the auctions and support a great cause.
Or just buy some fetch lands at channelfireball.com/command. And hey, look, it's a new year, new me, also new playmat, new dice, new deck box, new sleeves, all of those things. Sometimes you do need to replace sleeves because they get a little dingy, you play them too much, or you want to put them on a newer playmat because it's really cool and hollow foil. UltraPro's got your back. We've been trusting them for many, many years to protect our game pieces, and they can protect yours too, especially when you're going to buy those awesome... Well, maybe the deck. You want to re-sleeve that.
Oh boy, if you get a Masterpiece deck, please put it in Eclipse sleeves and then in a Satin Tower, and then put that Satin Tower inside of some kind of safe or other deck box, and then put that safe inside of Saran Wrap, and then put that Saran Wrap inside of like a bathtub, and then put it I don't know.
And then play the bathtub and be like, I win the game. Boom.
You're like, I want to play this deck. Hold on, I got to
Hold on. Be back in an hour.
All right, end step we're going to skip because this episode is like 2 hours long.
Woo.
But I want to give a big thanks to our amazing team here at the Command Zone who has worked so hard this entire year. Arthur Meadowcroft, who's probably editing this episode, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Craig Blanchett, Ashlyn Rose, Josh Murphy, Jake Bosch, Patrick Nan, Jordan Pridgeon, Sam Waldo, Gaurav Gulati, Truck Ty, Jamie Block, Damon Lenz, and Shauna Gillis, who are probably also helping to edit this episode because it's so long, and Evan Limburger, who's one of our new VFX people.
And artists.
Yep.
Love it.
Oh, yeah, he did some of the illustrations for the...
Blingmas.
Yeah, for my part of the Blingmas story. So we have an amazing team, super, super talented. They work so hard. So just want to give them... If you want to wish them a happy holidays and a joyous New Year's in the comments, we would be appreciative.
Yeah, you can also find their usernames and tags and all that stuff. And big thanks, as always, Jeffrey Palmer, who does the living card animations that start our show and sometimes live behind us here on set. You can find them on Twitter at livingcardsmtg. Whew. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with us all year.
And have a very happy end of 2021. And here's to a great 2022.
We'll see you next year.
Bye.
Peace.
For your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.